Zhu Jiuyin transmigrated into a blood-drinking, fur-eating snake gifted with eternal life from the very beginning, yet forever suppressed beneath Buzhou Mountain. Fortunately, the master-disciple return system was activated. Disciple cultivation could be returned 10,000 times. For freedom, Zhu Jiuyin began fervently taking disciples. The snake body, over 2 meters long and as thick as an adult's middle finger, coiled lazily in a corner of the cave. The tiny snake head rested gracefully on its own coils, napping. From time to time it flicked its forked crimson tongue, collecting and analyzing the scent particles in the air. Yes, Zhu Jiuyin had transmigrated into a snake. More precisely, a snake that could grow into the ancient mythical Zhulong. Suddenly a faint rustling sound drifted in from outside the cave. Zhu Jiuyin slowly opened its eyes. Inside the sockets a pair of vertically slit pupils gleamed blood red. Through the collection and analysis of its tongue, Zhu Jiuyin learned the identity of the intruder. Time for another meal. The densely packed red scales opened and closed, strong muscles pulled the long body, scraping over the cold, rough ground, concealing itself among the thick vines covering the cave walls. Thousands of ancient vines, thick and gnarled, hung with many fist-sized fruits. The fruits emitted a faint, clear fragrance and a dim red glow, flickering on and off like bloodshot eyeballs. Soon a white-furred rat crept furtively into the cave, cautiously approaching an ancient vine. Its 2 black, gleaming eyes greedily stared at the fruit just inches away. After a brief preparation, its thin hind legs suddenly launched, leaping into the air toward the fruit. Suddenly, from deep within the vine crevices, a long red shadow shot out. It was Zhu Jiuyin. In midair, the snake had already opened its huge maw, revealing sharp fangs. With one bite, it clamped onto the white rat's head. Then it frantically injected venom. Rats have tenacious vitality. To avoid being disemboweled after swallowing, Zhu Jiuyin chose a double approach. While injecting massive amounts of venom, the tumtor-long body coiled around the rat, applying pressure little by little. As time passed, cracking sounds of bones breaking and snapping came from all over the rat's body, audible one by one. After about the time it takes to burn 1 incense stick, the kitten's-eyed white rat was strangled to death. Or perhaps poisoned to death. Zhu Jiuyin swallowed it whole. It could clearly feel its throat stuffed and stretched by the huge object. The white rat's corpse was gradually pulled by muscles through the throat, all the way transported to the stomach. It feels great to be full. Zhu Jiuyin, with a large bulge in the middle of its body, slowly raised its head. Its red vertical pupils stared at the fruits on the vines. Zhu Jiuyin did not know if those fruits were poisonous, but every day many rats risked death to steal them. Zhu Jiuyin did not like eating fruits because now it was a blood-eating carnivore. Satiety brought drowsiness. Zhu Jiuyin slowly slithered toward the cave entrance. As the distance to the cave mouth grew shorter, the vines covering every part of the cave behind Zhu Jiuyin slowly rose into the air as if alive. Thousands of vines like iron chains writhed in midair. When Zhu Jiuyin was only dozens of centimeters from the cave mouth, suddenly with a whoosh of vines shot through the air like a whip aiming at Zhu Jiuyin. Feeling the sound of air behind it, Zhu Jiuyin stopped. The sharp tip of the vine was only 1 centimeter from the back of Zhu Jiyin's head. If it dared to advance another inch, the snake's head would definitely be pierced. Zhu Jiuyin was not frightened. Instead, it stretched its body in the morning sunlight like a person lying flat. Its snake eyes narrowed, red vertical pupils filled with contentment. The vine behind the snake's head silently retreated. Basking leisurely in the spring sun, Zhu Jiyin's mind stirred. The system panel immediately appeared in its vision. Host Zhu Jiuyin. Lifespan eternal, no aging, no death, no destruction. True form Zhulong infant snake stage. Cultivation 2. 1M young snake advances to fierce flood dragon stage at 1000M. Master disciple return system not yet activated. Note 1. The host can increase cultivation by devouring life essence, solar and lunar essences, and spiritual energy. Note 2. When encountering a fated person, the system will automatically activate the master disciple return system and tailor a cultivation technique for the disciple. Note 3. Detected host is suppressed eternally. System specially grants 1 day of freedom per year, which can be accumulated. The narrowed vertical pupils gazed far beyond the cave at the early spring scenery. Zhu Jiyin's thoughts wandered. That day after work, Zhu Jiuyin encountered a drunk thug harassing a pure high school girl. Could he, with his perfected Iron Mountain lean, tolerate this? Zhu Jiuyin shouted for justice, and after shouting transmigrated into a snake. Zhulong, true form ageless and immortal, a genuine eternal, but suppressed forever in a deep cave under some mountain by which great power. No memory of the original body, original owner, or original snake remained. Only the cultivation technique, 9 heaven-devouring art, remained. Later the system activated, awakening the master-disciple return system. Simply put, it meant taking disciples. When a disciple perishes, their entire cultivation is returned to Zhu Jiuyin by the system. Most importantly, the system gives Zhu Jiuyin 1 day off per year, 12 hours. No vacation days so far. Zhu Jiuyin sighed softly. No person and no snake knew how much he longed to see the outside world. Time passed day by day. Zhu Jiuyin's daily life as a snake was not boring but monotonous. During the day, it breathed the essence of the blazing sun. At night, it breathed the essence of the bright moon. It swallowed 7 or 8 white rats a day. Using the 9 heaven-devouring art, it refined the solar and lunar essences and life essence to increase cultivation. In leisure, it lay at the cave entrance, sunbathing, while contemplating snake life. Unbeknownst, it was already midsummer 5th month. One day, Zhu Jiuyin coiled deep in the cave digesting its meal. It had just swallowed a family of 3 white rats that had snuck in to steal fruit. It was very full. From time to time, it opened its mouth and let out a hiccup, a loud burp heavy with blood. My! The flicking tongue suddenly detected a very strange fragrance. The fragrance penetrated every part of the snake's body, making Zhu Jiuyin, a cold-blooded animal, feel a subtle, restless heat. This is a fellow snake, and a female snake in heat. The red vertical pupils stared fixedly at the cave entrance. Before long, a green snake, over a meter long, exceptionally slender, slithered in. The green snake did not notice Zhu Jiuyin at first. Instead, it slithered to an ancient vine. Just like the white rats, it was attracted by the fruit scent. Zhu Jiuyin narrowed its eyes, watching silently. The green snake opened its mouth wide, wrapped around the fruit, bit down hard, and swallowed whole. The next second, the green snake's body suddenly burst into brilliant radiance, blinding Zhu Jiuyin. After a dozen breaths, the blazing light dissipated. Zhu Jiuyin's crimson vertical pupils slightly contracted. A few meters away, the green serpent vanished without a trace, replaced by a girl approximately 17 or 18 years old. The girl stood gracefully with an icy jade-like complexion, completely bare. Her dark glossy hair cascaded down her back like a waterfall. On her palm-sized oval face, a pair of bright autumn eyes sparkled. This is the transformation fruit. A hint of surprise flashed in Zhu Jiuyin's vertical pupils. The green serpent, now in human form, had a suddenly elevated and widened field of vision, easily spotting Zhu Jiuyin. After observing for a while, the green serpent slowly extended a slender, delicate arm to pick a transformation fruit. Then, with small feet as warm as jade, she stepped on the coarse ground, her movements extremely stiff, approaching Zhu Jiuyin. She extended her palm, offering the transformation fruit to him. Her thin lips parted, speaking human words. She stuttered, "Eat. Eat it to conceive offspring." The green serpent's face was exceedingly beautiful. It was the most beautiful face Zhu Jiuyin had ever seen in both his previous life and this serpent life. Her figure was breathtakingly perfect. As for her voice, it was melodious, like clear springs flowing with the sound of pearls dropping on a jade plate. This was undoubtedly a heavenly gift falling from the sky. Yet Zhu Jiuyin remained unmoved, his red pupils burning like flames. The serpent's cold mouth uttered a single word: "Get lost." The green serpent, transformed into human form, clearly exhibited a hint of intelligence. A look of human-like astonishment appeared on her flawless face. After a while, she withdrew her hand and turned to leave the cave. "Sometimes the free things are the most expensive," Zhu Jiuyin murmured. All the gifts bestowed by fate had long been priced in secret. He gathered his thoughts. The red scales scraped against the ground. Zhu Jiuyin swam toward a fruit. Without hesitation, he opened his large mouth and swallowed it whole. The red fruit melted in his mouth, a warm, sticky liquid sliding down his throat and into his belly. In his mind, the cold, mechanical voice of the system immediately rang out. Ding detected that the host has swallowed a spirit fruit, absorbing massive amounts of spiritual energy. Snake body growth 0.3 meters. Detected that the spirit fruit has transformation effects. Does the host wish to transform immediately? Refuse. Zhu Jiuyin had grown accustomed to the daily life of a snake. Knowing that the fruit was a good thing, Zhu Jiuyin would naturally monopolize it. For the next few hours, Zhu Jiuyin was busily occupied. He bit down on a fruit, but did not swallow it. Instead, he moved it deep into the cave to hide. Back and forth, he moved it hundreds of times. Zhu Jiuyin finally finished biting off all the transformation fruits in the cave. 700 to 800 fruits piled into a small mountain in the corner of the cave. Zhu Jiuyin left one at the cave entrance to continuously attract those white-haired mice. After all, he was now a predator that consumed flesh and blood. With a thought, the system panel immediately appeared before him. Host: Zhu Jiuyin. Lifespan: eternal, immortal, and indestructible. True form: Zhu. Long young serpent. Stage: cultivation 2. 5-meter young serpent, advancing to fierce flood dragon stage after 1,000 meters. Not counting the 0.3 meters gained from the transformation fruit. After 2 months of hard cultivation, the snake body has only grown by 0.1 meters. That's only 10 centimeters. For over 2 months, Zhu Jiuyin had tirelessly refined the essence of the blazing sun and the bright moon with the 9 swallowing heaven technique. Moreover, those white-haired mice, larger than kittens, had been swallowed, 600 or 700 of them. They were nearly exterminated. Having refined such a massive amount of solar and lunar essence and life essence, The snake's body had only grown by 10 centimeters. The fierce flood dragon stage is still far away. With a sigh, Zhu Jiuyin coiled atop the fruit mountain, lowered his serpent head, and bit fiercely into the fruit flesh. Ding detected that the host has swallowed half of a spirit fruit, absorbing massive amounts of spiritual energy. Snake body growth 0. 14 meters. Ding detected. Ding. Ding detected that the host has swallowed a spirit fruit, absorbing a trace of spiritual energy. Snake body growth 0. 1 meters. This is like drug resistance. The first transformation fruit made the snake body grow 0. 3 meters. The 279th fruit, however, dropped to 0. 1 meters. Spirit fruits and pills are the same. If consumed excessively, resistance will develop. Cultivation 3. 7-meter young serpent advancing to fierce flood dragon stage. After 1,000 meters from this moment on, for Zhu Jiuyin, the fruit only had the effect of transformation, and it was difficult to improve his cultivation further. What a pity. Zhu Jiuyin, whose body grew suddenly from 2.5 meters to 3.7 meters, could distinctly feel the power surging within his serpent body. There was a strong confidence that he could easily coil around and strangle a large water buffalo. The densely packed red scales had grown significantly, and the serpent's body had thickened a bit, from the thickness of an adult's finger to that of an infant's wrist. At this moment, the moon hung high above the willow treetops. The moonlight poured in like silver water, illuminating the cave entrance as if it were covered with a layer of salt. It was the perfect time to absorb the essence of the bright moon. Muscles tensed along the serpent's body. Zhu Jiuyin swam down from the fruit mountain. The overlapping, tightly fitting red scales rubbed against the cold ground, producing a rustling sound. Zhu Jiuyin swam to the cave entrance. Just as he was about to refine the essence of the moon with the 9-in swallowing heaven technique, a picturesque scene suddenly caught his eye. Outside the cave, on the lush, soft grass, 2 bare bodies were entwined together, engaged in a fierce struggle. Zhu Jiuyin focused his. It was a man and a woman. The girl was the green serpent from the day before. The young man, whose face resembled a jade crown, was quite unfamiliar. Through the serpent's tongue, Zhu Jiuyin discerned the situation. The young man's true form was also a serpent. A black serpent. During the day, the green serpent, transformed into human form, had sought to create chaos with Zhu Jiuyin. Unfortunately, Zhu Jiuyin had firmly rejected her. The green serpent had left with a transformation fruit. It seemed she later found the black serpent. The black serpent swallowed the fruit and transformed into human form. Then they conceived offspring together. Zhu Jiuyin pondered for a moment and understood the cause and effect. He looked at the black serpent and green serpent tightly entwined a few meters away. Listening to the green serpent's seductive, quivering voice, Zhu Jiyin's crimson vertical pupils flashed with a chilling glint. Were it not for being trapped by this broken mount and unable to leave the cave, he would have certainly devoured these 2 filthy serpents as if they were spicy strips. So disgustingly gross. After cursing, Zhu Jiuyin turned and swam back to the fruit mountain deep within the cave, opening his large mouth and biting down hard on the fruit flesh. The sound of his chewing was quite loud. The next day, the sun was already high in the sky, but Zhu Jiuyin was still in a deep slumber. Tap, tap, tap. Amidst the footsteps, a well-built young man, who was the black serpent in human form, entered the cave. As for the green serpent, it was unclear why she had revealed her true form. Her over 1 meter long emerald green body coiled around the young man's neck several times. Her 2 pitch-black, round, and shiny serpent eyes stared unblinkingly at the last transformation fruit hanging from a vine a few meters away. The green serpent flicked her crimson tongue and licked the young man's cheek. The black serpent understood, immediately stepping forward to pluck the last fruit. Then the man and serpent headed straight into the depths of the cave. What came into view was a pile of 500 or 600 transformation fruits stacked like a small mountain. There was also the sleeping red serpent on the fruit mountain. In the eyes of the green serpent and on the face of the black serpent, there was a manifestation of human-like joy and greed. Humans, as the most intelligent beings, possess unparalleled advantages in longevity, cultivation, and chi refinement. Therefore, throughout history, both birds and beasts, as well as the essence of mountains, stones, flowers, and trees, have sought to transform into human forms. For the 2 serpents, hundreds of transformation fruits were akin to beggars encountering a mountain of gold. Unanimously, the green serpent and the black serpent did not consider stealing the fruit mountain. The black serpent extended its claw before the green serpent. The green serpent opened its mouth and swallowed the transformation fruit. A blazing radiance bloomed, and after a dozen breaths, the green serpent once again took the form of a maiden. The maiden extended a jade-like finger, pointing first at the red serpent slumbering atop the fruit mountain, then at her own rosy, thin lips. The black serpent understood. It stepped forward, reached out its arms, and embraced the red serpent, which was nearly 4 meters long, thick, and robust, lying on the fruit mountain. Then it brought the red serpent's dangling head to the green serpent's mouth. A hint of anger flickered across the maiden's porcelain-like face. She pointed again at her own mouth, then at the black serpent. Speaking in human tongue, she said, You eat. The black serpent also spoke in human tongue. All right. It slowly opened its massive maw, revealing a full set of gleaming white fangs. The black serpent aimed at the red serpent's head. It bit down hard. Clang, the next moment amidst a pleasant sound of metal clashing. Sparks flew from between the black serpent's fangs and the red serpent's scales. With a muffled thud, the red serpent crashed to the ground. Howl! Amidst a pained cry, the black serpent staggered backward and fell heavily to the ground. All its teeth were shattered and broken. Blood dripped profusely. Are you all right? The green serpent rushed to the black serpent's side, asking with concern. It's awake. The black serpent's face turned pale as it pointed shakily behind the green serpent. Whoosh, the breath it exhaled sprayed across the green serpent's entire back. Visibly, the soft down and fine hairs on the maiden's skin instantly stood on end like needles. With a cracking sound, the maiden turned her head stiffly. Reflected in those dark pupils was the red serpent standing upright like a human. Its imposing thick serpent body was covered in densely packed metallic scales, and those burning crimson vertical pupils exuding a chill like ice. The next moment, the red serpent abruptly opened its massive maw. With a crunch, it bit off the maiden's head from her body. Thump, muscles all over the serpent's head tensed. The maiden's head burst like a watermelon. Blood sprayed. Flesh splattered. The black serpent was drenched from head to toe, looking like a blood-soaked figure. The maiden's headless body swayed twice and then crashed to the ground. As divine light flickered, it revealed its true form, a green serpent without a head. Spare. Forgive me. I will be your servant. Crunch. Before the black serpent could finish, Zhu Jiuyin bit off its head. Crunching down, it devoured everything, blood, flesh, and bones. Light flickered again, and the black serpent revealed its true form, a headless black serpent a little over 2 meters long. Self-inflicted suffering, you deserve to die. With that, Zhu Jiuyin opened its serpent mouth and swallowed the green and black serpents like spicy sticks. Ding, detected host devouring 2 ninth-grade nascent beings gaining massive life essence. Serpent body length increased by 1.5 meters. Cultivation 5. 2-meter juvenile serpent advances to fierce flood dragon stage at 1,000 meters. Instantly, a warm current surged through every part of its serpent body. As if soaking in a hot spring, it felt very comfortable. Visibly, the serpent body thickened and lengthened considerably. 9th grade. Nascent. Does it mean birds and beasts that have awakened intelligence and embarked on the path of cultivation? I wonder what grade I am now. Burp. Zhu Jiuyin let out a bloody pungent belch. After killing and devouring the black and green serpents, Zhu Jiyin's life returned to tranquility. Day and night, it absorbed the essence of the sun and moon. As the serpent grew, its appetite naturally increased. Now it had to eat 20 or 30 white-furred rats a day. In the cave, time passed unnoticed. Basking in the sun by day, gazing at the stars by night, watching the mountains, the trees, the grass. A serpent must find something to occupy itself. By the cliff outside the cave stood 2 trees. One was a peach tree. The other was also a peach tree. Zhu Jiuyin watched the hairy peaches grow day by day. He named the tree on the left Peach 1 and the one on the right Little 3. Peach 1 bore a total of 379 hairy peaches. Little 3 bore 291. The season was already deep autumn. The weather was no longer hot. Zhu Jiuyin gazed longingly at the plump, luscious peaches as they fell from the branches one after another. No serpent knew how much he yearned to taste just one. Unbeknownst, winter arrived. Zhu Jiuyin grew especially drowsy. Often he would sleep for 3 to 5 days at a time. Is this the hibernation period of serpents? Coiled atop the fruit mountain, Zhu Jiuyin looked around at the dwindling transformation fruits. He couldn't help but curse these damned white-furred rats taking advantage of the situation. After cursing the drowsy, Zhu Jiuyin slowly closed his crimson vertical pupils. That day, a system prompt suddenly rang in his mind. Ding, detected host has been suppressed for 1 year. A single day of freedom is granted which can be accumulated. Free days 1 day 12 hours. In the midst of hibernation, Zhu Jiuyin abruptly opened his crimson vertical pupils. As a cold-blooded creature, he couldn't help but feel his blood boil. Finally, a holiday. Though it was only a day. Suppressing his surging emotions, Zhu Jiuyin slithered down the fruit mountain. He swiftly slithered to the cave entrance. It's snowing. Outside, the vast landscape was clad in silver. Inhaling a breath of cold air, Zhu Jiuyin slowly slithered outward. Inside the cave, the thousands of ancient vines, still green, even in the harsh winter, showed no movement, as if lifeless. At the beginning of his transmigration, Zhu Jiuyin had forcibly slithered out of the cave. As a result, the ancient vines whipped him until his skin was torn and blood flowed. Finally, dozens of vines wrapped around every part of his serpent body like iron chains, dragging him back into the depths of the cave. The suffocating sensation of nearly being strangled was something Zhu Jiuyin never wished to experience again. Centimeter by centimeter, another centimeter. Behind him, the thousands of ancient vines in the cave remained utterly still. At last, Zhu Jiuyin, who had crossed into this world, slithered out of the cave for the first time after experiencing an entire cycle of spring, summer, autumn, and winter. His overlapping, tightly interlocked crimson serpent scales crushed through the thick, soft snow. His 5-meter-long, robust serpent body resembled a blazing flame. Zhu Jiuyin arrived at the cliff's edge. He raised his head high. A foreign land scenery, 1,000 miles of ice, 10,000 miles of snow. Gazing at the mountains within and beyond, only a vast expanse remains as the great rivers above and below lose their surging flow. Heavy snowflakes fell on the red serpent's head and body. His eyes were cold. His heart was even colder. He was turning half a circle on the spot. Zhu Jiuyin raised his head to look at the great mountain that would suppress him for eternity. The mountain was so towering it resembled a crouching primordial beast, bringing an intense sense of oppression to Zhu Jiuyin. The highest peak of the giant mountain was hidden in the clouds and mist, as if reaching into the starry sky beyond. That is, Zhu Jiuyin, as a Zhulong, his crimson vertical pupils like torches, saw 6 large characters engraved on a cliff face hundreds of zhang high. The characters flickered faintly in the wind and snow. Dao de Yuan Shirling Bao. The 6 characters were not Chinese characters. Yet the profound power buried deep in the bloodline of the Zhulong allowed Zhu Jiuyin to recognize them. These are the 3 venerables of Taoism. Suddenly Zhu Jiyin's expression turned stern. His pair of vertical crimson pupils gleamed with divine light, as if they could pierce through time. That is, a person. Through the wind, snow, and clouds, Zhu Jiuyin saw a towering figure standing atop the giant mountain peak. Densely packed crimson serpent scales scraped across the snow, leaving a deep furrow in the white expanse, as the 5-meter-long thick serpentine body slithered. Zhu Jiuyin was ascending the mountain. He intended to meet the figure standing atop the peak up close. His eternal imprisonment might well be connected to this person. An hour later, Zhu Jiuyin slithered to the mid-slope of the great mountain. No vegetation surrounded him, only rugged, coarse rocks. The north wind howled, carrying fragments of snow that cut like knives against his scales. Crackle, crackle. The crimson scales scraped against the rocks, occasionally sparking. Nearly 3 hours later, Zhu Jiuyin finally reached the summit. This is... A flash of astonishment flickered in his crimson vertical pupils. A stone statue stood a zhang away. Over 2 meters tall, weathered by time, the statue was of a youth. Sword-like brows swept into his temples, his features handsome. The youth slightly bowed his head, as if gazing down upon the world, or locking eyes with Zhu Jiuyin. In the youth's right hand, he held a scabbard empty within. Without reason, a powerful sense of familiarity and a deep aversion surged in Zhu Jiuyin. Could it be this youth who imprisoned me eternally? Zhu Jiuyin murmured, his gaze passing over the youth to behind the statue. At the cliff edge stood a towering ancient tree, tens of zhang high. The ancient tree was entirely gray, as if sketched in pencil, exuding a color of desolation and despair. Its bark was cracked, and its canopy blocked the sky. Amid the roaring north wind, the gray leaves rustled loudly, clashing with a metallic ring. Is this an iron? The leaves clanged, the trunk radiating a cold metallic luster. Zhu Jiuyin could hardly believe his eyes, suspecting him. Summoning all his strength, he coiled around the youth's statue and slithered to the iron tree. He extended his tail and gently flicked the leaves. The gray leaves clinked and clanged, scraping across his crimson scales like blades, sparking fierce streaks of fire. An iron tree that never sheds its leaves. Zhu Jiuyin was astonished. His vertical pupils unblinkingly examined the iron tree inch by inch. He suddenly paused. Through the dense, near impenetrable leaves, he spotted 4 objects: an ancient stone sword, a crimson heavenly blade, a mottled black bell, and a nine-astery small pagoda. The blade, sword, bell, and pagoda were suspended by 4 branches of the iron tree, hidden among billions of leaves. The 3 words Dao de Yuan Shirling Bao. And the youth's stone statue, this iron tree. The 4 divine weapons: blade, sword, bell, pagoda. Could all this be to imprison me eternally? Zhu Jiyin's vertical pupils narrowed. Before his transmigration, what heinous deeds had that candle dragon committed? Coiling his thick body around the iron tree trunk, he first slithered to the ancient sword. The ancient stone sword was about 3 feet long, its blade covered in fine cracks, as if a single touch would shatter it. It looked as ordinary as mountain rocks and plants, with no hint of divine power. These are 2 characters. Zhu Jiuyin extended his head slightly and saw 2 ancient characters engraved at the junction of the sword's hilt and blade. They read Byron. 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 Zhang Bailun. Zhu Jiuyin snapped his head around, his scarlet pupils fixed on the youth's stone statue near. The stone sword was the youth's personal blade, and the youth was most likely named Zhang Bailun, the legendary Jade Emperor, ruler of the 3 realms and leader of the deities. The 3 great Taoist celestials. The Jade Emperor. Why have these supreme gods imprisoned me eternally? After pondering for a while, Zhu Jiuyin could not figure it out. His serpentine pupils narrowed. He slowly extended his tail, inching closer to the stone sword, intending to test if it could unleash its power without its master's command. Ding! His tail lightly touched the sword. It emitted a crisp sound. Before Zhu Jiuyin could react, a thunderous roar shook heaven and earth. Like a primordial beast bellowing to shatter the stars, the stone sword trembled slightly, and in an instant heaven unleashed its wrath. A nuclear bomb, rolling sword energy, surged violently. The terrifying sword aura flung Zhu Jiuyin away instantly. His indestructible crimson scales were scraped off layer by layer amidst clanging and countless sparks. Flesh and bones melted rapidly in the sword energy. Zhu Jiuyin was severed into several pieces. His mangled snake head flew an unknown distance. After a long, dizzying tumble, it crashed into the snow with a thud. Freedom Days countdown 032547. Only a little over 1.5 hours of vacation remained. Zhu Jiuyin slowly regained consciousness. The wind and snow had ceased. The surroundings were silent. The moon hung high and the velvet black sky was embroidered with bright stars. I was unconscious for over 6 hours. Zhu Jiuyin shifted his still bleeding snake head. Hissed the intense pain. With only a battered snake head left, how do I get back? Fortunately, the candle dragon's true form was immortal and indestructible, otherwise the sword energy would have slain him. Truly an imperial sword. Even without its master's command, it's so terrifying. The other 3 divine weapons, heavenly blade, black bell, small pagoda, must be equally fearsome. Am I destined to be eternally imprisoned? His crimson vertical pupils gazed at the brilliant Milky Way stretching across the night sky. Zhu Jiuyin let out an almost imperceptible sigh. Freedom Days countdown is 000151. Only 2 minutes of vacation remained. Soon. 10, 9, 8, 3, 2, 1. At the instant the countdown ended, Zhu Jiuyin suddenly felt an overwhelming, terrifying pull from behind. His mangled snake head was yanked backward like a streak of light. Everything in the world, even the stars in the night sky, stretched into thin lines of light. 2 or 3 breaths later, with a dull thud, his head hit the ground. Zhu Jiuyin felt a dizzying spin, the most intense vertigo he had ever experienced. After a long moment of recovery, he looked around. Familiar ancient vines. The same cave. Time slips away, cherries red and plantains green. Before he knew it, spring arrived, bringing life anew. Zhu Jiuyin, his body now restored to a meter in length, lay at the cave entrance, lazily basking in the sun. The transformation fruits he had bitten clean last year sprouted new buds on the ancient vines. Days passed. Summer arrived. Zhu Jiuyin, as usual, lay at the entrance counting how many leaves. 2 months later, Zhu Jiuyin finished counting. Taoda had a total of 8691 leaves. Next he began counting Shaosaner. Zhu Jiuyin never counted all of Shaosaner's leaves. He did not lose patience. Autumn came, and leaves began to fall. That year Zhu Jiuyin still could not eat the hairy peaches from Taoda and Shaosaner. In a blur, winter arrived. Zhu Jiuyin bit off all the transformation fruits in the cave, piling them into a mountain. His body, now over 3 meters long, coiled atop the fruit heap and fell into hibernation. In his daze, the system's cold mechanical voice echoed in his mind. Ding detected that host has been imprisoned for 1 year, granting 1 day of free time, which can be accumulated. Freedom Days 1 day 12 hours. Zhu Jiuyin felt no joy, unlike his first vacation. His heart was like a dead sea without a ripple. He chose to continue hibernating. In the 3rd year after transmigration, his daily life remained as monotonous and boring as ever. His body, severely wounded by the stone sword, had fully recovered. In the 4th year, he still watched the mountains by day and counted stars by night. His serpentine body grew to 6 meters. In the 8th year, his body reached 8 meters. His crimson scales blazed like fiery flames, and the thickest part of his body was as wide as a bowl. He could now be called a python. In the 9th year, due to annual raids, the transformation fruits now formed a mountain. Zhu Jiuyin guarded them fiercely, allowing not even a single fruit to be stolen by a white-haired rat. In the 10th year, winter. One day, while hibernating, the system's voice suddenly echoed in his mind. Ding detected a destined one. The apprentice return system has been activated. Ding detected that the destined one is approaching the host. Please wait patiently. The destined one has arrived nearby. Please accept an apprentice. Another year of snow. The world was a vast expanse of white. A young man trudged through the snow, his steps faltering and deep. Lifting his gaze, he saw distant towering mountains standing like colossal giants that touched the sky. Puff! A puff of white breath shot from the young man's mouth, swiftly swallowed by the north wind. "Half a month already," he murmured. Beneath his cotton cap, his sharply defined face was chapped red by the driving snow. The young man was called Chen Yanshi. He had ventured into the mountains this time to hunt. The harvest from his fields this year was passable. By tightening his belt, he could barely scrape through the harsh winter. Yet at the start of the year, Chen Yanshi had taken a wife. By autumn, his wife was with child. The scarcity of food was one concern. On the other hand, Chen Yanshi could forego meat for himself all year round, but he could not bear to let his wife, an unborn child, suffer. Unfortunately, he had been in the mountains for over 10 days without any sign of game, not even a hare or pheasant. How can I face my wife with empty hands? Tightening his tattered cotton jacket, Chun Yinshi trudged step by step toward the distant peaks. 2 hours later, Chun Yinshi arrived at the foot of the great mountain. With a single glance, he spotted a cave on the cliff ledge. The cave entrance was enormous, like the bloody maw of a primordial beast. There might be a reward in that cave. Even if not, it would be a fine temporary shelter to escape the wind and snow and rest a while. After deliberating for a moment, Chun Yinshi cautiously entered the cave. After setting down his equipment, the axe, the oxhorn bow, and the quiver of arrows, Chun Yinshi sat cross-legged facing the entrance. He took from his bundle a flatbread as hard as iron and a gourd of yellow water. Having not eaten for an entire day, Chun Yinshi did not immediately devour the food. Instead, he tucked the flatbread his wife had made into his cotton jacket, pressing it against his chest. His gaze tender, he whispered, "Linger, I will surely bring back many hares and pheasants." Only after the flatbread had warmed did he begin tearing into it with large bites. After eating and drinking his fill, Chun Yinshi was about to go out and gather some firewood, when abruptly a wisp of strange fragrance drifted past his nose and out of the cave. What is that? So fragrant. Chun Yinshi turned and gazed into the depths of the cave. His eyes flickered for a moment. Then, shouldering his quiver with the oxhorn bow in his left hand and the axe in his right, he crept softly deeper into the cave. Jagged rocks and dense vines lined the path. Chun Yinshi focused his mind, daring not to be careless. The cave was too vast, too deep. He advanced for a long, long time, without seeing an end. In the dim, eerie gloom, he could hear only the frantic pounding of his own heart and his abnormally heavy, ragged breaths. Chun Yinshi suddenly halted. Ahead, a faint reddish glow was faintly emanating. What is that shining? And burning with curiosity, Chun Yinshi quickened his pace. Passing a corner, the path ahead opened up abruptly. He was astonished to see a mountain of fruits piled high, countless in number, each the size of an infant's fist, exuding a rich fragrance and glowing with a crimson light. Are these immortal fruits? Chun Yinshi stood dumbfounded for a long moment. Coming to his senses, he lunged toward the fruit mountain. Grabbing a fruit in each hand, he stuffed them into his mouth. Crunch, crunch. The sound of chewing was very loud. So fragrant, so delicious. Utterly exquisite. Juice splattered as Chun Yinshi ate with great relish. As the fruit flesh slid down his throat, his stiff body, numbed by the cold, suddenly grew warm. One fruit after another, Chun Yinshi seemed to know no satiety. What Master Chi said is true. There are indeed immortal traces and immortal fortunes in this world. This is my immortal fortune, Chun Yinshi. With puffed-out cheeks, he suddenly swept dozens of fruits into his embrace. This very action destabilized the fruit mountain's foundation. On one side, countless fruits tumbled down like a mountain torrent, revealing half of an enormous snake, head buried deep beneath the pile. Amidst a sharp intake of breath, Chun Yinshi, startled like a bird, scrambled away from the fruit mountain. Only after fleeing a great distance did the young man collapse to the ground, gasping heavily. His arms, propping him up against the ground, trembled uncontrollably. A slight warmth spread in his crotch. He had lost control of his bladder. It took a long, long time for Chun Yinshi to regain his composure. Wiping the cold sweat from his brow, he said with lingering fear, "What a massive python." After a moment's thought, Chun Yinshi did not flee, but turned back and returned to the fruit mountain. The collapsed fruit mountain had revealed the serpent's entire head. Every inch of it was covered in densely packed crimson scales, appearing from a distance like a blazing flame. So huge. From the sight of the head alone, Chun Yinshi estimated the python must be at least 8 or 9 meters long. Every part of this snake would be a great tonic for my wife. If I kill it, my family need not fear the winter's wind and snow. Even if we ate meat twice a day, it would take 2 or 3 months to finish it. Chun Yinshi's heart stirred. This python must be in hibernation, its threat greatly diminished, rather than wandering aimlessly like a headless fly chasing traces of hares and pheasants. It was better to take a risk and go for something big. No courage, no reward. Swallowing hard, Chun Yinshi picked up the axe from the ground. He crept softly to the snake's head. After a moment's search, he raised his arm high. Aiming at the python's vital spot, he brought the axe down with all his might. Clang! The clear sound of metal striking metal rang out as the snake's scales and axe blade clashed, sending forth blazing sparks. With a whoosh, the axe blade snapped clean off, a shard flying with a sharp whine to embed itself in the cave wall. The axe flew from his hands. Half his body numbed by the shock, Chun Yinshi lost his footing and tumbled straight down the fruit mountain. Hiss! He gasped as he struggled to his feet, rubbing his stinging wrist. So, heart. Looking up, Chun Yinshi's eyes flew wide open. His pupils shrank to pinpricks. The python, which had been in hibernation, had somehow awakened. 2 blood-red vertical pupils gazed down at the young man, yet it merely watched, making no move to attack. Chun Yinshi greets the Serpent Immortal. Serpent Immortal, venerable. Stupid snake. Seeing the unmoving crimson python, Zhu Jiuyin breathed a sigh of relief. He figured the snake was still in its hibernation state. In simpler terms, it was dazed from sleep. The scales are too hard, I can't break through them. But the eyes must be a weak point. Zhu Jiuyin picked up the oxhorn bow and drew an arrow from the quiver on his back. The next moment he pulled the bow taut like a full moon. He aimed at the python's crimson vertical pupil. Swoosh! In an instant the arrow loosed from the string shot forth with a fierce wind, like lightning streaking across the night sky. Ting! The sharp arrowhead, forged and tempered from refined iron, collided fiercely with the python's crimson eye. In Zhu Jiuyin's incredulous, stunned expression, the arrowhead snapped clean off. The next moment, the fruit mountain quaked. It was like a volcanic eruption. Countless fruits glowing with crimson light scattered in all directions like fireworks blooming under the night sky. Beneath the fruit mountain, a thick serpent tail lashed out. The tip of the tail struck Zhu Jiuyin. In that instant, the young man's body flew like a cannonball. With a wet smack, he crashed into the cave wall, like a fly that had been swatted. Every organ, every bone within his body was shattered completely. His entire form became a bloody pulp, slowly sliding down the wall to the ground. Ding detected that the destined one was slain by the host. The master-disciple rebate system has been shut down. Please wait for the next destined one host. A wave of fatigue washed over him. Zhu Jiuyin thrust his serpent head back into the pile of fruits and resumed his hibernation. He knew not how long he slept. In a daze, he faintly heard a dense patter of footsteps drifting in from outside the cave. Today I will surely chop off that wretched snake's head. He'll flay it, break its bones, eat its flesh, drink its blood, and gnaw its bones. The sound of footsteps drew nearer. Zhu Jiuyin slowly opened his crimson vertical pupils and flicked his scarlet forked tongue. By collecting and analyzing the scents, he discerned the identities of the intruders. His thick serpentine body, over 10 meters in length, slithered out from the fruit mountain. Then, like a blazing flame, he coiled horizontally before the mountain. Having done this, Zhu Jiuyin lay down on the ground and slowly closed his eyes. Before long, over a dozen figures arrived before the crimson serpent, the crimson python. They halted 3 zhang away. The group consisted of men and women, old and young, all completely naked without a single thread of clothing. These individuals were all white-furred rats who had consumed the transformation fruit, awakened their intelligence, and taken human form. They were rat spirits. Each white-furred rat spirit held in its hands implements that only humans could forge. There were heavy cleavers, gleaming sharp swords, kitchen knives, scythes, and axes. Some even had hoes and iron spades slung over their shoulders. At the forefront were 2 individuals. One was an old man with white hair. The other was a sharp-faced, monkey-like young man. The old man pointed at the slumbering crimson python and said to the youngsters behind him, "It was this wretched serpent that devoured my wife, your great-grandmother. When we attacked, great-grandsons, chop it to death." The young man mimicked him, also addressing the youngsters, "It was this wretched serpent that devoured my grandmother, your mother. When we attack my children, we won't stop until we see blood." Zhu Jiuyin, feigning sleep, heard everything clearly. His mind grew somewhat confused, utterly unable to untangle the familial relationships of this group of white-furred rat spirits. Equally bewildered as Zhu Jiuyin were the youngsters. A little boy appearing about 6 or 7 years old with delicate jade-like features looked at the young man and asked curiously, "Father, why do you call mother grandmother? And why is mother also great-grandfather's wife?" The young man cleared his throat twice and said, "I was in love with your mother, who was also your great-grandfather's wife, your great-grandmother and my grandmother, and she gave birth to you. Your great-grandfather and I, my grandfather, we addressed each other on our own terms." At this point, the young man looked at the old man and said affectionately, "Grandfather." The old man replied kindly, "Good brother." The young man said, "Big brother." The old man responded, "Dear grandson." A large wave of young white-furred rat spirits. Zhu Jiuyin. Great-grandsons, pity your mother's corpse is gone without a trace. My children, avenge your great-grandmother. Kill. A horde of white-furred rat spirits swarmed forward, surrounding the crimson python. They raised their swords and axes, swinging their hoes, clanging and banging away. Zhu Jiuyin lay lazily, his heart filled with contentment. The techniques of these white-furred rat spirits were quite impressive. Zhu Jiuyin relaxed and at ease, couldn't help but open his massive maw and let out a satisfying yawn. Damn, the serpent has awakened. Great-grandsons, the wind is tight. Scatter. The old man called to his good brother and dear grandson along with the horde of great-grandsons, and they scrambled and tumbled toward the cave entrance. Zhu Jiuyin let out a light chuckle. With a single gulp, he swallowed the old man whole. A crunching sound followed. Blood splattered everywhere. Flesh and bone fragments flew about. Great-grandfather. Grandfather. Big brother. No. Amid heart-wrenching cries of grief, the horde of white-furred rat spirits fled faster than one another, vanishing from sight in the blink of an eye. Having devoured the old man, blood, flesh, and bones included, a system voice immediately sounded in his mind. Ding detected, host has consumed a 9th grade rising life form. Serpent body length increased by 0.27 meters. Turning his head to look at the mountainous pile of transformation fruits, a sudden idea struck Zhu Jiuyin. From this day forth, he would never again stop the white-furred rats from stealing the fruit. When a white-furred rat consumed the fruit, took human form, awakened intelligence, and embarked on the path of cultivation, it became a rising life form. He could then devour it to enhance his own cultivation and lengthen his serpent body. It was like harvesting leeks. One batch after another. An endless supply. I am truly brilliant. Layers upon layers of crimson snake scales interlocked seamlessly gleamed with a metallic luster as they scraped across the cold ground, slithering all the way to the cave entrance. Outside, a fine drizzle fell. The grass appeared green from afar, but was scarce up close. Another spring has come. Zhu Jiuyin murmured softly. Flowers may bloom again, but youth never returns. In the 11th year since he had crossed over into this world, during the harsh winter, Zhu Jiuyin, buried deep within the fruit mountain in hibernation, suddenly heard a system voice in his mind. Ding, detected host has been suppressed for another year, granting 1 day of free time, which can be accumulated. Free days, 10 days, 120 shurchen. As always, Zhu Jiuyin chose to accumulate his leave. After all, this vast mountain range was too expansive. 10 days might not be enough to find any trace of human presence. What Zhu Jiuyin desired most at the moment was to visit a human settlement and drink his fill of alcohol. If possible, he also yearned to smoke a few satisfying pipes of dry tobacco. Dry tobacco could alleviate anxiety. As for alcohol, it allowed Zhu Jiuyin to drown his sorrows in oblivion. In the 13th year since his crossing, Zhu Jiuyin engaged in a fierce battle with over 100 white-furred rat spirits who had taken human form. Zhu Jiuyin nearly died from overeating. The white-furred rat spirits were almost driven to extinction from being devoured. In the 14th year since his crossing, through years of observation, Zhu Jiuyin keenly discovered that the transformative effects of the transformation fruit varied among individuals. In simpler terms, an extremely rare few white-furred rats would transform immediately upon consuming the fruit and permanently retain their human form. A small number could only maintain it for a day or two. But the vast majority, even if they consumed 100 fruits, would neither transform nor develop intelligence. In the 18th year since after the spring thaw, Zhu Jiuyin, still in hibernation, awoke uncontrollably. Through February, March, April, loneliness was like snow. Like an undecaying corpse, Zhu Jiuyin lay at the cave entrance for a full 7 or 8 months, from the time the grass was fresh and new until withered leaves swirled in the wind. Peach tree number 1 has a total of 9117 leaves this year, 323 more than last year. It bore 409 peaches, 18 more than last year. Little 3 has a total of 7956 leaves this year, 274 more than last year. It bore 332 peaches, 29 more than last year. Little 3, keep it up, work hard. A month later, after waiting with eager anticipation, the hibernation period finally arrived. Time for another good sleep. In the 19th year since his crossing, another autumn, plump succulent peaches hung heavily from the branches. The fragrance of peaches wafted everywhere, but unfortunately Zhu Jiuyin could only look, not eat. One moment, he was lazily basking in the sun. The next, a system notification suddenly rang in his mind. Ding, detected a fated one. Master-disciple return system has been activated. Ding, the fated one is approaching the host. Please wait patiently. Zhu Jiuyin snapped his eyes wide open. His crimson vertical pupils shimmered with brilliant light. A stream murmured. Reflected in its waters was the delicate, slightly pale face of a boy. With small hands, he cupped the stream water. Lowering his head, he drank like a fawn, sipping gently. After drinking his fill, the boy pulled over the basket beside him and took out all the items inside. While tallying, he murmured to himself, I've picked over 3 caddies of forsythia, plus purslane, cudweed, and plantain. This trip into the mountains has been quite fruitful. I reckon it can sell for 20 or 30 copper coins. Mother's medicine for today is finally taken care of. After packing the herbs into the basket, the boy pulled out a hard, dry cornbread. He wolfed it down with stream water. After a short rest, he hoisted the basket, which was taller than himself, and looked up at the towering mountains ahead. Is this the Buzhou mountain that Master Qi spoke of? The spine of the ancient god who propped up the heavens in legend. I hope I can find something worthwhile. In his murmuring, he followed the stream toward the mountain. The blazing sun hung high in the sky. Under Zhu Jiuyin's eager gaze, the sound of approaching footsteps drifted from the right side of the cave. Soon a small figure clad in coarse linen and straw sandals came into view. The boy looked about 7 or 8 years old with a slender frame. As he walked, his heels kept bumping against the basket, a rather comical sight. Wow, so many peaches. The boy didn't notice Zhu Jiuyin at first. His bright black and white eyes were filled with the sight of 2 trees laden with plump, deep purple peaches. First he set down the basket. Then, with a solemn expression, he pressed his small hands together, closed his pitch-black eyes, and earnestly bowed 3 times to the larger and smaller peach trees. Only then did he stand on tiptoe to pick a peach. He ate it in small bites. After devouring 7 or 8 peaches, the boy patted his slightly bulging belly with satisfaction. Wiping his mouth, he packed over a dozen peaches into the basket. Then he pressed his hands together again toward the peach trees. I'm full, and I brought some for Mother and Sister Chuer. Thank you, peach spirits. With that, he stepped forward. Gently, he hugged the larger peach tree, then the smaller one. Truly a kind little one. Peach spirits, it's getting late. I need to go home. Just as the boy was about to lift the basket, his small body shuddered. In his pupils was reflected the image of a massive, ferocious python head. Dense blood-red scales gleamed with a cold luster. Its vertical pupils exuded a chilling malevolence. With a muffled thud, the boy fell backward. His small body twitched and convulsed. His eyes rolled back, and streams of white foam bubbled from his mouth. He had been frightened into a faint. How pathetic! Zhu Jiuyin, lying at the cave entrance, rolled his eyes. A crimson forked tongue flickered, gathering and analyzing sense. After confirming the boy was unharmed, Zhu Jiuyin slithered back into the depths of the cave and swallowed a transformation fruit. Ding detected host consuming a spirit fruit, absorbing vast spiritual energy. Snake body length 0.007 meters. Detected that the spirit fruit possesses transformative properties. Does the host wish to transform immediately? Transform. A brilliant radiance enveloped the nearly 20-meter-long thick serpentine body. After a dozen breaths, the divine light faded. The giant python vanished without a trace. In its place stood a youth of about 16 or 17, completely unclothed. Tall and slender, with jet black hair cascading like a waterfall. His handsome face was set with a pair of narrow, long eyes sharp as heavenly blades. After 20 years in this world, this was Zhu Jiuyin's first time assuming human form. Instinctively, he lowered his head for a careful look. Zhu Jiuyin was quite satisfied. Touching his firm pectorals, he murmured, "Though he is my disciple, it is still the first time." He still needed to wear clothes. In his mind, countless ancient characters flashed by, forming the 9 nether heaven-devouring art. So the 9 nether heaven-devouring art contains a transformation technique. The 9 nether heaven-devouring art encompassed a vast array of knowledge, including many secret techniques beyond cultivation. After the time it takes to drink a cup of tea, Zhu Jiuyin chanted incantations under his breath. Amidst a haze of spiritual energy, a set of white robes materialized. Once adorned in the immaculate flowing white garments, Zhu Jiuyin's aura instantly elevated by 3 or 4 stories. From an indecent exhibitionist to a graceful, refined gentleman of elegance. He extended his right hand and conjured a mirror. Zhu Jiuyin examined himself from left to right, up and down, and from every angle. If handsomeness were a crime, I truly deserve to be suppressed for eternity. Unfortunately, even in human form, the pupils in his eyes remained vertical, blood-red serpent slits. Time passed unknown. The boy slowly regained consciousness. In the sky, the great sun had already sunk to the horizon. As if remembering something, the boy sat up abruptly and looked around. Seeing that the basket a few meters away was still there, he let out a long sigh of relief. "Child, what is your name?" A warm voice like a clear spring flowed into his ears. The boy jerked his head up, staring intently at the white-clad youth sitting cross-legged at the cave entrance, his expression filled with fear and wariness. "As Serpent, Immortal. My name is a Fae, the Fae, that means to fly." "How old are you?" "In 9. You seem very concerned about your basket." "There are herbs I picked today in the basket. If I lose them, I can't buy medicine for my mother." "What illness does your mother have?" "She had a difficult birth when I was born, and it left her with a chronic condition. This mountain range is teeming with wild beasts and dangers." "Does your father feel at ease letting you come alone?" "My father is dead." "How did he die?" "In the winter 10 years ago, he went hunting in the mountains and never returned." Zhu Jiuyin frowned slightly. "Child, where do you live?" "Qingping town." "How far is it from here?" 20 or 30 li, just on the other side of Buzhou Mountain." "Buzhou Mountain." Zhu Jiuyin narrowed his blood-red vertical pupils. "Child, would you be willing to take me as your master?" "Take you as my master." The boy stared at Zhu Jiuyin's 2 blood-red vertical serpent pupils and swallowed hard. "Serpent, Immortal. If I refuse, what will you?" Zhu Jiuyin smiled benevolently. "I will swallow you alive." With a thud, the boy immediately fell to his knees. He performed the grand ceremony of 3 kneelings and 9 prostrations. "Master, above, your disciple, a Fae, kowtows to you." In his mind, the cold, mechanical voice of the system rang out. Ding detected host successfully taking on a disciple. Name: Chunming Fei. Talent: innate, sword embryo. Age: 9. Cultivation: mortal body. A customized falling petals sword technique has been created for Chunming Fei. Host, please prepare to receive it. Instantly, a vast torrent of information like the waters of the heavenly river cascaded from the void into Zhu Jiuyin's mind. "Master, it's getting late. If there's nothing else, your disciple will go home now." With that, the boy cautiously and stealthily edged toward the basket. "Wait." Zhu Jiuyin pulled a transformation fruit from his sleeve and tossed it to the boy. "Master, this is..." The boy caught the fruit, his face full of confusion. Zhu Jiuyin said kindly, "This fruit contains 2 of the world's greatest poisons, the half-step smile of oblivion and the onati fatal powder. Eat it, and your master will let you go home." Come back tomorrow, and I will teach you a peerless divine art. The boy's face turned pale with fright. Eat quickly, Zhu Jiuyin barked. If you don't eat the fruit, your master will eat you. The boy shuddered and hurriedly took a bite. Crunch, crunch. Juice splattered everywhere. Is it good? The boy forced a smile that was uglier than crying. Good boy. Go home now. Don't forget to come early tomorrow. Watching the boy who carried the basket on his back and moved so fast that a cloud of dust rose behind him, Zhu Jiuyin couldn't help but curl his lips in a pleased smile. Today was truly wonderful. I forgot to tell the boy to pick me some peaches. The sun was setting in the west. A Fei ran and ran along the stream. He ran until he tripped and fell, eating a mouthful of mud. Recalling that terrifying python head, those densely packed sinister scales, and those malevolent blood-red vertical pupils, of Fei burst into loud wails. Mother, I'm going to die. The cave was located on the southern side of the mountain. To the north of the mountain, nestled against the hills, and beside a stream, sat a small town. Night fell. The autumn wind swirled up withered leaves, sending them spinning through the air. On the dusty earthen path, a boy panting heavily gazed at the distant lights ahead. The great weight in his heart finally eased. About the time it takes an incense stick to burn, the boy returned to the town. His first stop was the Yang family apothecary. He traded the herbs he had gathered today for copper coins. With those coins, he bought a packet of medicine to warm and nourish the blood and qi. His second stop was a dark alley where he knocked on the courtyard gate of a house. Who was it at this late hour? Grandpa Lu. Soon, with a creak, the gate opened to reveal a white-haired old man. The old man, like a Fei, was dressed in coarse linen. His wrinkled face was like a piece of old tree bark, the crevices filled with dirt. He looked at the boy who was panting heavily, his small face flushed red. The old man said kindly, "A Fei, you're late today." The boy's expression dimmed. "Are they all sold?" "Haha, just teasing you. I saved one for you." The old man extended the hand he had been hiding behind his back. In his bony skin and bones palm was a glistening jade-like candied hawthorn stick. "Thank you, Grandpa Lu." The boy handed the old man a copper coin. After taking the candied hawthorn, he ran off joyfully and leaped away. The old man watched the boy's small, thin figure disappear into the night. The old man sighed softly, such a good child. It's a pity he'll soon be an orphan. The moon rose above the willow trees. Qingping Town. Wui Alley. With a creak, the boy pushed open the courtyard gate. Seeing the lamplight in the main house, he beamed a bright smile. He put his backpack, axe, and sickle into the eastern wing and placed the medicine and candied hawthorn in the kitchen. The boy fetched a basin of water, washed his dusty little hands and face, and carefully brushed the dirt off his clothes before entering the main house. Mother, I'm home. In the main house, on a wooden bed, lay a woman in her 20s. The woman was very, very thin. She was nearly a shriveled piece of skin wrapped around a bony frame. Her once black hair was like withered winter grass. Only her long autumn water eyes were gentle. They were as if filled with the soft spring water of a full stream, able to soothe one's heart. "Son, why are you so late today?" the woman asked with a soft smile. "The forsythia deep in the mountains is flourishing. The buds are big and full, and I lost track of time." "Mother, don't fall asleep. They'll go decoct the medicine for you now." The boy gently hugged the woman, then walked out of the room. "Son, there's food in the pot. Eat first." "I know, Mother." In the kitchen, the boy first lit a fire, then added water to the medicine pot. He fetched a small stool, stood on it, and placed the pot on the stove. Soon the water boiled. The boy took the herbs, and with practiced ease put the various ingredients into the boiling water in order. Then he picked up a fan and gently fanned the flames. The fire blazed fiercely with the wind. Soon the boy was drenched in sweat, but he remained focused, his large eyes unblinking. Decocting medicine was very demanding. With the slightest carelessness, it would burn. The boy couldn't help but recall the time he first decocted medicine for his mother, when he had ruined several pots. Back then, only 4 years old, he had cried his heart out. His mother hadn't been angry, she had just comforted him softly. Later, the boy knelt before the owner of the Yang family apothecary. He kowtowed heavily until his skin split open and blood streamed down. In the end, he had learned how to decoct medicine. It was a highly skilled craft. Half an hour later, the medicine was finally ready. The boy used a cloth to carefully lift the pot off the stove. Then he picked up the candied hawthorn stick from the cutting board. The bright red fruits were coated in golden, amber-colored sugar syrup. The boy swallowed hard. For 4 or 5 years, he had bought a candied hawthorn stick every day. Yet he had never tasted even one, because the medicine was very bitter. With a thud, the boy picked up the kitchen knife and chopped the entire stick into pieces. He then poured all the fragments into the medicine pot. He picked up the wooden stick and sucked on it carefully. The boy murmured, "So sweet. Mother, time to drink the medicine." Watching his mother drain the large white bowl of medicine in one go, the boy asked, "Mother, isn't it bitter?" The woman smiled, not bitter at all. Not only is it not bitter, it even has a bit of a sweet and sour taste. The medicine my son decocts is much better than what those masters at the Yang family apothecary make." The boy broke into a simple, foolish grin. That night, the boy couldn't sleep. His whole body felt like it was burning, and he couldn't settle down. "Is this the two ultimate poisons of the world taking effect. His internal organs felt as if they were being placed on a red-hot iron plate, sizzling with oil. The boy sleeping in the eastern wing curled up his small, thin body. He bit down hard on the blanket, forcing himself not to cry. I don't want to die. What will happen to my mother if I die? Heaven, please have mercy, and let me live a few more years, okay? The sun rose at the foot of Buzhou Mountain. Deep within the cave, Zhu Jiuyin, clad in snow-white robes and barefoot, sat cross-legged before a mountain of fruit. Scattered around him were various implements. There were iron swords, long knives, a cleaver, an axe, a hoe, a shovel, and others. All of them had been discarded years ago by the group of white-furred rat demons that Zhu Jiuyin had slaughtered, sending them howling in agony. Now they were covered in rust. Zhu Jiuyin, who had been contemplating the falling blossom sword art all night, slowly opened his eyes. His crimson vertical pupils gleamed in the dim environment. They were like a burning flame in the darkness. Standing up, Zhu Jiuyin spread the 5 fingers of his right hand. With a whoosh, an iron sword was pulled through the air from a distance. Gently holding the iron sword, Zhu Jiuyin stood as still as a mountain. His eyes were cold. His blood was cold. His heart was cold. The next second, the iron sword's blade trembled lightly. The sword's hum was like a dragon's roar. Zhu Jiuyin was still as a maiden, yet swift as a thunderbolt. His tall, slender figure was like a white bolt of lightning, leaping and soaring within the cave. The sword aura surged like rolling waves. Amidst a clanging sound, the sword's edge stirred, carving marks across the ground and the cave walls. In an instant, the figure, graceful as a startled swan and lithe as a swimming dragon, came to a halt. Zhu Jiuyin bent his finger and lightly flicked the sword's blade. The sound of the blade echoed softly. Letting out a gentle breath, Zhu Jiuyin smiled slightly and murmured one word: very cool. The falling blossom sword art was now mastered. It was more than enough to teach a 9-year-old brat who hadn't even grown his hair out yet. Suddenly, Zhu Jiyin's expression turned stern. In his human form, he extended his forked crimson snake tongue to collect and identify scents. He discerned the identity of the intruder. With a sweep of his long sleeve, the iron sword shot out with a piercing sound. With a clang, it embedded itself into the cave wall. Smoothing his robes, Zhu Jiuyin walked to the entrance of the cave. Soon the small figure of a boy came into view. Master, the boy called out softly with a simple, foolish smile. Yesterday you ran away like your tail was on fire. Why the happy face today? Zhu Jiuyin clasped his hands behind his back, squinting slightly. The boy said shyly, Master, that fruit you gave me yesterday wasn't poison. Last night my stomach hurt terribly, and I thought I was going to die. It turned out to be just diarrhea. After a few trips to the outhouse, I woke up this morning feeling refreshed and full of energy, as if I had endless strength. Master, other children are born after 10 months in the womb. But I was born just over 9 months, and I've been weak and sickly ever since I was little. So it was because of that fruit you gave me, right? Zhu Jiuyin looked sideways at him. You little one, you're quite thoughtful. The boy smiled shyly. Child, first go pick a few peaches for your master. About the time it takes an incense stick to burn, Zhu Jiuyin and the boy were both eating wild peaches, sitting cross-legged facing each other. The peaches he had longed for 20 years were indeed very juicy. After eating a dozen or so, Zhu Jiuyin wiped his hands clean. He looked at the boy and asked, Master, my name is Afei the Fei, that means flying bird. Clumsy bird, tell me your dream. The boy was stunned. Then he lowered his head and thought, a dream, a dream. What kind of thing is that? Master, since I can remember, my mother has been bedridden. My daily routine is simple. When there are letters, I deliver them for Uncle Guo, 1 letter for 1 copper coin. On good days, I can earn 20 or 30 coins. When there are no letters, I go into the mountains to gather herbs. You also said, Master, that this mountain range is infested with wild beasts and full of dangers. I have encountered tigers, wild boars, and snakes more than once. I am very afraid, but I have no father. If I don't hold up this family, what will happen to my mother? Master, I have many. I hope Brother Lishan can treat Sister Chuier better. Sister Chuier is my neighbor, known as the tofu beauty of the town. She is kind and often helps me. Unfortunately, Sister Chuier's husband, Brother Lishan, is addicted to gambling and deep in debt. Those loan sharks have smashed her tofu stall many times and often speak rudely to her. As for Brother Lishan, he loses every bet, then drinks, and when drunk he loses his temper and beats Sister Chuier black and blue. I hope Brother Lishan can turn back from the brink and realize his mistake, that he and Sister Chuier can live together in harmony. After a pause, the little one continued, Master, I also hope that Da Huang can be as happy as before. Da Huang is the dog raised by Mr. Chi. 2 years ago she gave birth to 6 puppies, chubby and cute. As for Mr. Chi, he is the schoolteacher in the town. In the spring 2 years ago, it was drizzling in the town. That day a few children hadn't finished their homework, so Mr. Chi punished them with a slap. Those children held a grudge. They dared not harm Mr. Chi, so they took Da Huang's 6 puppies and in front of her stoned them to death, turning them into bloody pulp. From then on, Da Huang became depressed. She never wagged her fluffy tail again. Ow! At this point the little one sighed softly like an adult. Master, I even more hope that the root cause of my mother's illness can be completely cured. Then I can push her outside the house to see the mountains and rivers beyond the town. And shopkeeper Yang of the pharmacy, who studies new prescriptions every day, his brows never relaxed. And Uncle Gua, whose 3 sons have all enlisted and haven't been heard from for years. Uncle often sits under the old locust tree at the town entrance, sitting there the whole day. And, stop. Zhu Jiuyin dug at his ear, looking at the little one sitting properly. I don't care about them, I only want to know your dream. In other words, what do you want to do in the future? Think big. The little one thought for a long time. Then he looked up at Zhu Jiuyin and said, seriously, Master, I want to learn how to make candied hawthorns from Grandpa Lu. Hiss. Zhu Jiuyin clutched his chest, almost spitting out blood. Too painful. Master, actually, besides learning to make candied hawthorns, I also want to travel the world outside. In the little one's clear black and white eyes a longing light sparkled. Master, I want to see the vast and magnificent eastern sea that Mr. She talks about. I want to see the majestic glaciers stretching thousands of miles in the north. I want to see the prosperity of the Wei capital that can accommodate 1 million people. With a slap, Zhu Jiuyin slapped his thigh. The world is so big you want to see it. Good Master supports you. But going out you'll inevitably face danger, so learning a few moves for self-defense is necessary. What do you think, disciple? Zhu Jiuyin had long noticed that the little one had no intention of learning martial arts. And indeed that was the case. The little one had to take care of his bedridden mother, so he had no time or mind for it. That's why Zhu Jiuyin was guiding him patiently. The little one hesitated for a while before saying, Master, you are right. Very good, especially good. Since you've agreed, Master will now teach you the ultimate divine art. The path of cultivation, martial arts, is long and arduous. From today on you must be diligent and persistent. You must never be slack or superficial. The little one nodded firmly. A fei will not let Master down. Very good, excellent. Zhu Jiuyin laughed heartily. The little one suddenly felt something was wrong. Wasn't he here to thank his master for the fruit, inform him of his family situation, and then firmly refuse the so-called divine art with sharp words? After all, any normal person would never follow a mysterious python, or rather a snake spirit, to learn some damn divine. The little one wanted to refuse. But seeing Zhu Jiuyin laughing heartily, his heart softened. Master, why does he look so unreliable? Murmured the little one in his heart. The sun hung high in the center of the sky. It was the last warm period before winter. Among the thousands of peaks, the little one in straw sandals ran panting and gasping, dashing swiftly toward the town. To build a towering mansion, one must lay a 100-foot foundation. For martial artists, the foundation is of utmost importance. Zhu Jiuyin ordered the little one to run between the town and Buzhou mountain at the fastest speed, calling it tempering the little one's body for strength. Gag. After running for half an hour, the little one suddenly fell to the ground and vomited sour water. Mother, have I been cheated? After a full 2 hours of round trip, the little one finally ran back to the cave entrance. At this moment at the cave entrance, Zhu Jiuyin in white robes as white as snow stood tall and elegant, his right hand lightly holding a rusty iron sword. Master, where did you get that sword? The little one asked curiously. Don't worry about it. Zhu Jiuyin said softly, disciple, do you think in your heart that I am like those swindling charlatans in the marsh? The little one shook his head like a rattledrum. No, not at all. Those who are accustomed to lying will go to the tongue-cutting hell after. I have never seen a swindler as handsome as you, Master. Continue. I have never seen a swindler as graceful, handsome, elegant, refined, and gentle as you, Master. Zhu Jiuyin smiled slightly. What an honest child. Disciple, watch closely. I rarely draw my sword. Under the little one's expectant gaze, Zhu Jiuyin slowly raised his arm across his chest. Then with a swoosh he swiftly swung his sword. The surroundings were silent. The little one let the sword aura fly for a moment. The moment Zhu Jiuyin's words fell, the entire sky and earth suddenly rumbled. In the little one's horrified gaze, more than a dozen connected mountains in the distant sky burst open one after another like a string of firecrackers. Rocks flew through the air, dust billowed. The fierce sword aura rolled back like crashing waves. The little one's coarse linen clothes and Zhu Jiuyin's white robe fluttered loudly, as if they were about to be torn apart by the sword wind. Staring at the land leveled to the ground, the little one stood motionless like a statue. His eyes were wide as copper bells, as if they would fall out of their sockets the next moment. How is that sword, Master? Zhu Jiuyin smiled lightly. The iron sword in his hand silently disintegrated into dust. Master. The little one's gaze seemed to cling to Zhu Jiuyin. Master. I want to learn. The little one said each word with great. His 2 pitch-black pupils, without a trace of impurity, seemed to burn with blazing flames. That day, or rather that sword strike, was the turning point of the little one's life. Before, the little one was a busy little frog. From now on he was destined to become a bird soaring through the heavens. Because this little frog had seen the vastness of the universe, the impact of that sword strike was indelible to the little one. At the foot of Buzhou mountain lay the tranquil Qingping town. Within Wui Alley the night was thick and heavy with lamplight flickering like a pea-sized flame. In the main room, a little lad was utterly absorbed, gripping a small brush and scribbling on rice paper. A woman, meanwhile, was threading a needle and stitching a sole. "Son, how many characters did you learn from Master Qi today?" Her voice was soft and gentle like a babbling brook. "Mother, I'm not practicing calligraphy, and I haven't been to the school for days," the little lad replied without looking up. "Then?" the woman asked, puzzled. The little lad was silent for a long while before saying, "Mother, I've decided to follow a master and learn the sword." Its scabbard clearly drawn on the paper, including the sword's name, Dian Shui blood. "Son, if you're not practicing calligraphy, why are you drawing a sword? And you haven't been to school these days, yet you leave early and return late?" the woman asked, puzzled. The little lad was silent for a long while before saying, "Mother, I've decided to follow a master and learn the sword." "Learn the sword? A master?" The woman's willow leaf eyebrows furrowed slightly. "Who is your master?" The little lad replied earnestly, "My master is called Nanju, and he lives at the foot of Buzhou mountain." The woman was speechless. The next day, Zhu Jiuyin in his true form was lying lazily at the entrance of a cave, basking in the sun. Soon the sound of running footsteps grew closer. The little lad's frail figure came into Zhu Jiyin's view. A piercing scream echoed through. Seeing Zhu Jiuyin in his true form for the second time, the little lad was still deeply terrified. He plopped down on the ground, his bright eyes wide as brass bells. Panic and fear were thick and viscous, as if they would spill from his eyes. Dense crimson scales shimmered with a cold metallic luster under the sunlight. The thick knotted serpent body, nearly 20 meters long, brought a profound sense of oppression to the little lad's soul. And those blood-red, vertically slit serpent eyes exuded a sinister, eerie aura. The little lad's throat moved as he swallowed hard. 4 or 5 minutes faster than yesterday, not bad, Zhu Jiuyin praised. The little lad stared without blinking, his gaze seemingly glued to the serpent's body. "Like it? Come touch it." "Of course." The little lad ran joyfully to Zhu Jiyin's side, extending his rough little hands to gently stroke the paper-thin crimson scales. "Master, you're so big and so long. Do you have to eat a lot every day, eh? Master, what do you usually? Master, do you eat as much as you excrete, just like people? Master, being a python, do you dream when you sleep? Master, when you sleep, do you grind your teeth and drool like Fei? Master, do you fart?" Zhu Jiuyin was speechless. From the cave to the town's entrance, the little lad ran back and forth the entire day until the sun set. Completely exhausted, the little lad lay sprawled on the withered grass, gasping for air. Master, when will you teach Fei swordsmanship? For a martial artist, the foundation is paramount. You were a premature child, frail and prone to illness since birth. Zhu Jiuyin explained patiently. That spiritual fruit barely made up for your deficient foundation. Once you run yourself into a healthy body, it'll teach you swordsmanship. How much longer will it take, Master? Zhu Jiuyin pondered for a moment and said, "About 2.5 years. 2.5 years. The little lad suddenly sat up. "Master, my mother wants to see you." "See me, eh?" Zhu Jiuyin was taken aback. After a long silence, he uttered 2 words, "No." "Oh, all right." The little lad was dejected and crestfallen. As dusk fell and the little lad departed, Zhu Jiuyin slithered back into the depths of the cave. In a corner of the cave lay a pile of bleached bones, the remains of the young man who had died at Zhu Jiyin's hands 10 years ago. Beside the bones were the young man's axe, a horn bow, and a quiver. The axe was rusted, the horn bow was rotting, and the quiver was thick with dust. What a twist of fate for a snake, Zhu Jiuyin sighed softly. Day 1. "Master, I'm here. My mother wants to see you." "No." Day 2. "Master, no." Day 3. "Master, shut up." Day 4. "Master, if you keep nagging, I'll expel you from the sect." Night fell pitch black. The river in the sky poured down. It was the last rain of autumn that year. The little lad dashed out of Wui Alley, his straw sandals splashing countless drops on the bluestone slabs. An hour later, outside the cave, the little lad fell to his knees with a thud and began kowtowing heavily. Amidst the scraping sounds, faint sparks flickered within the pitch-black cave. Soon an enormous python's head came into the little lad's view. "Master, my mother. She's failing. I beg you for a spiritual fruit." The little lad's voice was hoarse. Zhu Jiuyin looked down from his height at his 9-year-old disciple. The rain had drenched the little lad like a drowned rat. The cold invaded his body, and his frail, small frame trembled uncontrollably. He had fallen countless times on his run here. The skin on his forehead was broken, rain mingling with blood. His hemp clothes and straw sandals were caked with mud. His little face was as pale as a corpse. "Disciple, you know in your heart that your mother has been barely holding on all these years." "Master, I know." The little lad, it was unclear whether he was wiping away rain or tears. "Master, I've been afraid of the dark since I was little. It's not the darkness I fear, but every night I can hear my mother's agonizing, suppressed groans coming from the main room. I've tried covering my head with a quilt and plugging my ears with my fingers, but I can still hear it. Master, my mother is the toughest, strongest person I've ever known. So I simply can't imagine what kind of pain that must be. Master, is it because I've seen too few people Am I ignorant? Is it not that painful? Is my mother not strong? The little lad was in tears. The crimson python opened its mouth, but didn't know how to answer. Child, the choice is yours. Let your mother die, and end her suffering, or save her, and endure inhuman torment. As for the spiritual fruit, I have plenty here. The next day the rain stopped, and the temperature plummeted. Zhu Jiuyin waited at the cave entrance from early morning. It wasn't until noon that he heard the familiar sound of running footsteps approaching. Soon the little lad's rosy-cheeked face came into view. Zhu Jiuyin chuckled lightly. Your mother's awake. Mum. The little lad nodded heavily, grinning foolishly. Thank you, master. Oh, master, my mother asked me to give you this. The little lad placed a tightly wrapped handkerchief before Zhu Jiyin's python head. No mountain running today. Go home and take care of your mother. Yes, master. As the little lad ran off happily, Zhu Jiuyin closed his blood-red serpent eyes. With a thought, his thick serpent body blazed with intense divine radiance. Moments later the light faded. Zhu Jiuyin transformed into human form. Picking up the handkerchief, he untied the four corners. He found a jade-green hairpin inside, and a letter with elegant handwriting. In the letter, the little lad's mother did not mention herself, nor the little lad, nor Zhu. She merely described in detail the Wei Kingdom's capping ceremony, the rite of passage into adulthood. Men of Wei before coming of age wore their hair bound, but no cap. At 20, their father or a respected elder would personally comb their hair and place a new cap on them. This was the capping ceremony. For any man, it was an extremely important moment in life. Among wise gentry, the ceremony often involved donning a cap. But commoners unable to afford new caps usually used wooden hairpins or cheap jade ones instead. The jade hairpin in Zhu Jiyin's hand was warm, smooth, and verdantly lush, far beyond those crudely made substitutes. Is this entrusting an orphan? Zhu Jiuyin murmured. This was not just a hairpin, it was a heavy responsibility. Gripping the jade hairpin tightly, Zhu Jiuyin whispered, tomorrow it'll go down the mountain. Dawn. The sun had yet to rise. The small town was shrouded in a thin mist. Lu Chui'er rose early, powdered her bruised face before the bronze mirror. Yesterday the young woman was brutally beaten by her husband Zhongli Shan, who robbed her of the money meant to buy soybeans, and then headed off to the gambling den for pleasure. Today her tofu stall would not be set up. Dong dong dong. Suddenly a knock came from outside. Ah Fei, hold on a moment. Lu Chui'er turned her head and called it. The one who knocked on the courtyard door so lightly could only be the little one from next door in the entire town. He was afraid that knocking too hard would annoy others. Quickly applying powder to cover the bruises, Lu Chui'er walked out of the main house and pulled open the courtyard gate. Outside, the little one looked up with a brilliant smile and said, Sister Chui'er, could you please come to my house? Of course I can. Ah Fei, why are you so happy today? Lu Chui'er asked curiously. Sister Chui'er, my master is coming to my house today. After the time it takes an incense stick to burn. Inside the neighbor's main house by the window, Lu Chui'er watched the little one earnestly sweeping the yard. She turned to the woman in bed and inquired, Sister Linger, who is Ah Fei's master? The woman spoke softly. I'm not sure either. I only heard Ah Fei say that he is called Nanju and lives in seclusion at the foot of Mount Buzhou. Chui'er, since he is Ah Fei's master and this is his first visit, we must not be rude. As she spoke, the woman slipped a jade bracelet off her right wrist. Chui'er, take this bracelet to the pawn shop and sell it. On your way back, buy some fresh fruits and vegetables, fish and meat. And buy a big rooster. He'll trouble you with today's meal. Chui'er was stunned. Sister Linger, this jade bracelet is a token of love from Brother Chun. It's the only keepsake Brother Chun left you. Is it worth it? The woman whispered, Chui'er, he is not a guest. He is my son's master. The sun climbed high into the sky. The little one, having scrubbed and cleaned the house inside and out, boiled a pot of water, carried the bath barrel to the eastern wing, and began to bathe. Lu Chui'er, who had returned from shopping, hung the little one's new clothes high up. She lit an incense stick and placed the censer beneath the new garments. These are things I as his mother should be doing. Chui'er, I'm sorry for the trouble. The woman said apologetically. Sister Linger, we've known each other for over 10 years. Why say such things? Lu Chui'er folded the cotton socks and tucked them into the new cloth shoes. The scorching sun hung at its zenith. Mother, Sister Chui'er, I'm off to meet my master. The neatly dressed little one called out, then rushed out of the courtyard gate impatiently. Sister Linger, will go kill the chicken and fish. Thank you. On the ancient road, a young man in clothes as white as snow with a tall and slender figure walked. His thick jet black hair danced wantonly in the wind. Even the breeze seemed to envy his handsomeness. This was Zhu Jiyin's first time descending the mountain in the 20 years since he had crossed over into this world. Every blade of grass, every tree, every mountain, and every stone along the way was novel to him. From afar he saw a tiny black speck rapidly approaching. A faint smile curled at the corner of Zhu Jiyin's mouth. Master! Master! The little one soon reached Zhu Jiuyin, his small face beaming with joy. Master, why didn't you wait for your disciple to come and fetch you? Zhu Jiuyin ruffled the little one's head. Your master isn't so lost that he can't find the way down the mountain. Speaking of which, why is my disciple so handsome today? Almost catching up to your master. The little one instantly blushed with shyness. Let's go. Don't keep your mother waiting. After the time it takes an incense stick to burn, Zhu Jiuyin and the little one entered the town. Rows of blue brick and green-tiled houses stood closely packed on both sides of the bluestone street, stretching all the way to the distant horizon. The aroma of food, loud hawking cries, and the fierce sound of haggling filled the air. The streets were thronged with people. With a sharp slap at a sugar figure stall, a woman gave her brat a hard slap on the face. The boy, about 6 or 7 years old, immediately fell to the ground, rolling and thrashing. Sugar figure, I want it. I want it, sugar figure. I want it, I want it, I want it. A bare-chested, burly man with a mole between his eyebrows brushed past Zhu Jiuyin. He took a huge bite of a meat bun. Scorched, he winced and bared his teeth. Hastily, he blew out a puff of hot air. Zhu Jiuyin sniffed slightly. He murmured, pork and scallion filling. A few zhang away, under the century-old locust tree at the town entrance, sat a group of children and a man in a blue robe. A large yellow dog lay dozing beside the man. The man in blue spoke with eloquence, and the children listened with rapt attention. As if sensing something, the man in blue suddenly looked up at Zhu Jiuyin. The man's appearance was slightly inferior to Zhu Jiuyin's. 3 pupils deep and calm. Double pupils. Gazing at the 2 slightly fused pupils in the man's left eye socket, Zhu Jiuyin's crimson vertical pupils narrowed slightly. Mr. Chi. The little one suddenly called out, waving his arm at the man in blue. The man nodded slightly. He continued to captivate the children with his words. Zhu Jiuyin silently conjured a strip of white cloth and wound it around his crimson snake eyes. Master, I'll lead you. No need, your master can see. Feeling the hairs and down on his exposed skin standing on end like needles, Zhu Jiuyin asked, Disciple, what is the name of that Mr. Chi? His surname is Chi, and his given name is Qingji. Qingji. Zhu Jiuyin frowned. What an auspicious name. By the way, disciple, didn't you say before that several children in town had bashed to death the puppies born to Mr. Chi's big yellow dog? What happened to those children later? The little one replied, that summer they went into the river to play and all drowned. Disciple, what is it, master? Listen to your master. Stay away from this Chi Qingji in the future. Oh, sunlight filtered through the treetops, scattering like broken gold on the ground. The little one led Zhu Jiuyin into a small alley. From afar they saw a young girl about 20 years old dressed in a green ruchuan standing at the gate of a courtyard deep in the alley. As they approached, the little one introduced, Master, this is my sister Chuier. She lives next door. Sister Chuier, this is my master Nanju. The girl performed a Wanfu salute. This humble one Lu Chuier greets Master Nanju. Zhu Jiuyin cupped his hands in return. I often hear Afei speak of Miss Chuier. Miss has shown great care to my beloved disciple over the years. Nanju offers his sincere thanks. Neighbors helping each other is only natural. Master, you flatter me. Zhu Jiuyin knew that the little one's mother was bedridden with paralysis. The fact that the woman allowed this young girl to welcome him as the lady of the house showed the depth of their emotional bond. Afei, there's food in the kitchen. Take it to the eastern wing to eat. Okay, Sister Chuier. Master, please come into the main house. The ordinary yellow earth courtyard was swept spotlessly clean. A pear tree was planted in the southeast corner, yet there was not a single fallen leaf in the yard. Exquisite paper cuts were pasted on several windows. It showed the mistress' ingenuity. Led by Lu Chuier, Zhu Jiuyin entered the main house. He immediately saw the woman propped up on the wooden bed. Zhu Jiuyin had never seen anyone so emaciated. Her eye sockets were deeply sunken, and her sparse black hair was like withered grass in the cold wind. It was as if a piece of dried, wrinkled human skin was tightly stuck to her bony frame. To be honest, she resembled a fiend from a storybook. Yet the woman's long autumn water eyes were very gentle and very bright. Zhu Jiuyin found it hard to believe that a woman nearing 30 could have eyes so devoid of any impurity. They were as clear black and white as her son's. Master has arrived. This humble one is Nan Jinping. Due to illness, I could not welcome you from afar. Please do not blame me. It was the gentlest voice Zhu Jiuyin had ever heard in his past life as a human and his present life as a serpent. It was like the sound of spring returning to the earth, ice and snow melting, and tender grass shoots pushing through the soil. The square table was laden with exquisite dishes. There was chicken meat and fish. There was also a jug of wine. Master, it's a simple meal. Please do not disdain it. No, it's very sumptuous. Zhu Jiuyin did not put on the airs of a lofty hermit. He knew well that the cost of this feast, if converted into millet, could very well be the mother and son's food rations for half a year, or even a whole year. Picking up his chopsticks, he looked at the intact braised fish and white-cut chicken. Zhu Jiuyin picked a chicken drumstick and a large piece of fish belly into a big white bowl and handed it to Lu Chuier. The girl looked at the woman. The woman smiled and nodded slightly. Only then did Lu Chuier take the white porcelain bowl and walk out of the main house to the eastern wing. The room was very quiet. Zhu Jiuyin filled his cup to the brim and drank it down in one gulp. The clear wine slid down his throat. A fire immediately ignited in his belly. Good wine. Zhu Jiuyin picked up a piece of braised pork and stuffed it into his mouth, eating with great relish. On the bed, watching Zhu Jiuyin drink heartily and eat with gusto. The woman breathed a long sigh of relief inwardly. A faint smile appeared at the corner of her mouth. It was good that he did not just take a symbolic 2 bites. Twilight hour. Zhu Jiuyin put down his chopsticks and looked at the woman on the bed. Light streamed through the window, casting its glow upon her. She appeared serene and peaceful. Sir, I have but a few days left, the woman murmured, her eyelids lowered. In her withered hand, she held a needle and thread and an unfinished tie. Fei, I entrust him to you, sir. Zhu Jiuyin uttered a single word. Good. With that he rose and walked toward the door. Sir, this is our final meeting. Zhu Jiuyin's tall frame stiffened slightly. He opened his mouth, yet found no words. Crack. Zhu Jiuyin pushed open the door of the eastern wing. Inside, the little one sat properly on a small stool, cradling a bowl of millet rice. At that moment, he was nibbling on the chicken bone from the drumstick. Master, seeing Zhu Jiuyin, the little one hastily buried the bone into the millet rice. His cheeks flushed scarlet. Disciple, from today onward you will stay in the town and take good care of your mother. When spring comes next year, come find me at the foot of Buzhou Mountain. Zhu Jiuyin smiled gently. Master, the town isn't that far from Buzhou Mountain, the little one said, putting down his bowl and hopping to his feet. Disciple, you know that snakes need to hibernate. Oh, I see. The little one scratched the back of his head and said shyly, then I wish Master sweet dreams. Thanks for the kind words. Master, let me see you to the town entrance. No need, hurry and eat before it gets cold. Passing by the kitchen, Zhu Jiuyin saw Lu Chui'er washing dishes and did not disturb her. Emerging from the alley, Zhu Jiuyin clasped his hands behind his back and walked barefoot on the bluestone slabs toward the town entrance. On the street, an elderly man with white hair led an old ox at a slow pace. A vegetable peddler shouldered empty bamboo baskets, humming a tune as he strolled leisurely home. A woman with a vegetable basket hurried past. Children carrying book bags walked in small groups. A gentle sniff filled his nostrils with the aroma of cooking. Lifting his gaze, the entire town was steeped in the warmth of everyday life. Soon Zhu Jiuyin arrived at the town entrance. Under the old locust tree, there was no sign of the man in blue robe. Sir, wait. A voice suddenly called from behind as Zhu Jiuyin was about to head out of town. Turning around, he saw Lu Chui'er rushing over. Sir, could you spare a moment? Zhu Jiuyin nodded slightly and gestured toward the old locust tree. Please, Miss Chui'er. Zhu Jiuyin had never seen such a thick locust tree, requiring at least 3 adults to encircle it. The bare branches stretched out in all directions like clawing hands. One could imagine how pleasant it would be to cool off under the tree's shady canopy in the height of summer. Under the locust tree stood a stone pier and a tree stump. Lu Chui'er sat on the stone pier, Zhu Jiuyin on the stump. After a moment's hesitation, Lu Chui'er asked, Sir, how much do you know about Fei? Zhu Jiyin's crimson eyes narrowed beneath his cloth bandage, savoring the last warmth of the setting sun. Miss Chui'er, you may speak directly. Sir, do you know how Sister Linger lost her legs, Without waiting for Zhu Jiyin's reply, Lu Chui'er continued. She sawed them off herself with a sigh. Zhu Jiyin's body trembled slightly. At that moment, 2 dark clouds gathered in Lu Chui'er's bright almond eyes. That year, Fei was only 2 years old. As she spoke, the dark clouds in the young woman's eyes collapsed. The past poured down like a torrential rain. Fei's father was called Chen Yanshi. The year he married Sister Linger, also the winter she became pregnant, he went deep into the mountains to hunt and never returned. Sir, can you imagine? Sister Linger, heavy with child, would go to the market every day to pick rotten vegetable leaves for the nourishment of her unborn baby. She dared only eat half a bowl of millet rice each day, and every day she had to go outside the town to gather firewood bundle by bundle. That winter was especially long and bitterly cold. Fei was born on a night when a violent snowstorm raged. Inside that freezing room, Sister Linger delivered the baby herself. She cut the umbilical cord herself, boiled water, and washed away the blood from Fei. Fei was premature. He didn't cry at all the night Sister Linger thought the child wouldn't survive that winter. Lu Chui'er let out a deep breath as she spoke. Due to severe hemorrhage during childbirth, Sister Linger developed a chronic ailment. When Fei was 1, her feet began to rot, and the rot spread upward to her legs, threatening her life. In that poor family with a widow and an orphan, even having enough to eat, and where was a problem, let alone medical treatment. When Fei was 2, on a night of fierce wind, rain, and thunder, Sister Linger entrusted the child to me. That night alone, she boiled a pot of water. Clenching a wooden stick between her teeth, she picked up a saw and cut off both her legs, which had rotted nearly to the bone. That night in my memory was unbearably long. The next day, having not slept all night, I pushed open the door. Sir, I will never forget that scene for the rest of my life. The wooden bed was drenched in blood. On the floor lay 2 severed legs, a mess of flesh and blood. The bedding seemed soaked in blood. The wooden stick had snapped in 2, covered in teeth marks. Sister Linger's blood-stained face was the most beautiful I have ever seen. more beautiful by thousands and tens of thousands of times than the so-called fairies in New Year paintings. So perhaps it's because I've seen too few people and am ignorant. Whether in the past, present, or future, Sister Linger is the person I admire most. No one can compare to Sister Linger. Sawing off her own legs. Even Zhu Jiuyin, a cold-blooded creature, felt his palms grow damp. Sir A Fei is since he was old enough to understand his young shoulders, shouldered the responsibility of the head of the family. At 3 or 4 he stood on a small stool learning to cook and to brew medicine for Sister Linger. Other children could sit in bright, clean schoolhouses to read and write. But A Fei was confined to the cramped kitchen day after day, waving a fan. Other children climbed trees for birds, fished in rivers, and played wildly all day. But A Fei had to go alone deep into the mountains to dig for medicinal herbs. Other children had several new sets of clothes each year. But A Fei could only wear coarse linen and tattered straw sandals. The neighbors couldn't bear the mother and son's hardship and helped them from time to time. But if Zhang San's family gave 3 white flour buns today, A Fei would return for the next day. If Li Si's family gave 2 jin of meat today, A Fei would return 3 the next day. At this point, Lu Chuier looked at Zhu Jiuyin. Sir, actually back then shopkeeper Yang of the Yang family pharmacy once visited Sister. After examining her, shopkeeper Yang told Sister that to survive she had to lose her legs. He offered to perform the amputation first, and as for the fee, whether 3 years or 10, she could repay a little each year until it was cleared. Shopkeeper Yang would use anesthesia for the amputation. With a sufficient dose, Sister would fall unconscious and feel no pain during the procedure. Zhu Jiuyin frowned. Why did she refuse? Lu Chuier gave a bitter smile. Shopkeeper Yang is a good man. But Sister knew that once she lost her legs, she would be a cripple and could never repay the amputation cost. This debt, enough to crush most families in town, would weigh heavily on A Fei's shoulders. The Yu family was poor, so they owed not a single ounce of kindness. Sister's only wish was for A Fei to live a healthy and peaceful life. Over the years, Sister and A Fei have never owed anyone in town any favor. Sir, Lu Chuier said solemnly, the reason I've told you so much is that I know Sister doesn't have many days left. A Fei is truly a very, very good child. If you cannot do it, please tell me directly. I will carry out Sister's wish and raise A Fei to adulthood. Zhu Jiuyin sat up straight. Miss Chuier, please rest assured. Once a teacher, always a father. I will act as a father, educate A Fei, and protect him for life. Sir, thank you, Lu Chuier said, tears brimming in her eyes, but a smile on her lips. If A Fei knew that so many people care about him and think of him, he would smile in his dreams. His mother, his master, and Sister Chuier, that makes 3. Too many. For the little one, it's more than enough. The leaden clouds hung heavy, casting a desolate air over heaven and earth. A thin layer of fine salt dust. Winter had arrived, and the period of hibernation came as promised. A flicker stirred within Zhu Jiyin's mind, and the system panel materialized before his eyes. Host Zhu Jiuyin. Lifespan eternal, ageless, undying, indestructible. True form candle dragon, infant serpent stage. Cultivation 21. 7 meters. Juvenile serpent advances to fierce flood dragon stage at 1000 meters. Master disciple return system active. Disciple name Chunming Fei. Talent innate, sword embryo. Age 9 years. Cultivation mortal flesh. Free days 19 days and 6 hours, 234 hours. Muscles brimming with formidable power propelled his thick, knotted serpentine body, slithering deeper into the cavern. Scales as dense as divine metal scraped against the rough ground, scattering sparks of searing light. Zhu Jiuyin slithered all the way to the base of the fruit mountain. His serpentine body then coiled before the fruit mountain, a blazing inferno of flame. Disciple, when the grass grows and the orioles sing, next year we shall meet again. In the soft murmur of his voice, the enormous, ferocious head of the crimson serpent came to rest upon the ground. His golden candle flame-like crimson vertical pupils slowly closed. Gradually his breathing became imperceptible. The frost was so severe it snapped the sash of one's coat. Fingers grew too stiff to tie a knot. In the gray light, just before dawn, the little one donned his cotton-padded jacket and trousers, pulled a coarse linen robe over them, and stepped out of the courtyard gate. The frost was so severe it snapped the sash of one's coat. Fingers grew too stiff to tie a knot. In the gray light, just before dawn, the little one donned his cotton-padded jacket and trousers, pulled a coarse linen robe over them, and stepped out of the courtyard gate. To become a true swordsman who can slay a man every 10 steps and leave no trace for 1,000 li is no achievement of a single morning or evening. Only through unwavering persistence can one drip through stone. As for being born into poverty, that has never been an obstacle. Life is like a wall. Even the smallest person can cast a giant shadow. These were the principles his master had taught him. The little one kept them etched in his heart. Though his master's supervision was absent, he had never slackened these past days. In a single day, the little one could run dozens of circuits around the town. An hour later, the town, like a sleeping maiden, rubbed its drowsy eyes and awakened from its spring dream. The little one, his cheeks and ears flushed bright red from the cold, ran to a forest on the northwestern edge of the town. The forest nestled against the mountains and bordering the river was called the Divine Wood Forest by the town's ancestors. Ancient legends said that the gods who ruled heaven and earth once dwelled here. The master of the wicker-fenced yard was the town's school tutor, Master Qingji. Seeing the curling smoke rising from the chimney of the tiled house within the yard, the little one was about to approach. Suddenly, he recalled his master's warning. Master Qi has no reason to harm me. Obeying master is always right. The little one plunged headlong into the Divine Wood Forest. Every ancient tree in the Divine Wood Forest was immense. The thinnest was as thick as the century-old locust tree at the town's entrance. The thickest would require 7 or 8 grown men to encircle. On the rough, cracked trunks of every divine tree was carved a lifelike face. There were the visages of ancient old men, vibrant youths, children, and even women. Some townsfolk said these faces were carved by human hands. Others claimed they grew naturally from the trees themselves. After all, the Divine Wood Forest was once the earthly dwelling place of the gods. Every tree here was steeped in the aura of the deities. At this moment, the little one stood facing a divine tree, his hands clasped together, his large eyes slightly closed, his posture devout. He murmured softly, "Mighty and illustrious deities, please bless my mother with safety and peace." The first divine tree, the second, the third, the fourth, one after another. Every time he came to the Divine Wood Forest, the little one would devoutly bow before every single tree. The forest held a total of 179 divine trees, 179 faces of the gods. The little one feared that if he missed bowing to even one, that deity would be displeased and cease to protect his mother. An hour later, the little one walked out of the Divine Wood Forest, his heart filled with joy. He came face to face with a man in a blue robe, standing by the bank of the Taiping River, lost in thought. Master Qi. The little one steeled himself and stepped forward to greet the blue-robed man. The little one feared that if he missed bowing to even one, that deity would be displeased and cease to protect his mother. An hour later, the little one walked out of the Divine Wood Forest, his heart. "Fei, you have taken that. One is your master." The blue-robed man's voice was warm and smooth as jade. The little one nodded gently. "Fei, do you know that? That one is not human." "I know." The blue-robed man turned slightly, his 3 dark pupils looking down upon the little one. "Child, the paths of man and demon are different." The little one's voice was soft, but his expression was extremely earnest and serious. "Call him master once, he is my master for life. Master Qi, my mother is waiting for me to come home." Looking at the little one's thin, retreating back as he ran swiftly away, the blue-robed man let out an almost inaudible sigh. Such a fine seedling, what a pity. That beast got there first. Night was deep. The bitter cold raged unchecked. Deep in the alley, a single lamp flame flickered like a bean. Inside the main room, a woman sat propped up on the bed, threading a needle to embroider a tiger-shaped hat. As for the little one, he was sketching a new version of the blood-drop sword. "Mother, what is it?" the little one asked, puzzled. 2 years ago, Master Qi said he wanted to take me as his disciple. That day, Mother invited Master Qi to our home. Sister Chuier also made a big table of dishes. Master Qi, just like my current master, ate every dish clean and drank all the wine. "But Mother, why didn't you let me take Master Qi as my teacher back then?" The woman smiled faintly and said, "Because of the eyes." "The eyes, eh?" The little one pondered for a moment. Does Mother mean she saw in Master Qi's eyes that he didn't really like me, and in Master's eyes she saw that he truly likes me? No. The woman's clear autumn water-like eyes curved into crescent moons. "Son, what Mother looked at was not the eyes of Master Qi or Master Nanju, but yours." The little one suddenly understood. That winter had come exceptionally early, but the first snowfall was long delayed. The 8th day of the 12th lunar month was the little one. On this day, the little one wore the tiger head hat his mother had sewn with her own hands, holding a large white bowl in his arms containing 10 eggs. After peeling the eggs, he dipped them lightly in chili sauce, not daring to stuff a whole one into his mouth and wolf it down. He only dared to take small bites, savoring the flavor. Ever since he was little, the little one only ate the egg whites, never the yolks, because Sister Chuier had said all the nutrition of an egg was in the yolk. Inside the main room, the woman directed Lu Chuier to pull out a large reed-lacquered, time-worn wooden chest from under the bed. Chuier, inside this chest are Afei's cotton-padded jackets and trousers from age 10 to 20 and 11 pairs of cloth shoes. I wonder if they'll be too big or too small when the time comes. Lu Chuier opened the chest, and seeing it filled with neatly folded and properly arranged clothes and shoes, her eyes couldn't help but redden. The young girl gently grasped the woman's thin, ice-cold hands. She choked out, "Linger, Jiejie, I don't want you to die." The woman chuckled softly. "Silly Chuier, everyone must die sooner or later. When I die, it should be peaceful. Because Afei has you and Master Nanju. Chuier, Jiejie has no regrets in this life. I have a husband, a child, and a sister. I share deep love with Yinshur. I am close with you, and my child is so kind and adorable. In this life I have received more than enough. The new year was approaching. On the 19th day of the 12th month, the townsfolk finally welcomed the year's first snowfall. The spring festival eve was approaching, and the town market saw many stalls selling festive items such as door gods, spring festival couplets, paper-cut window decorations, and lanterns. Wearing a tiger head hat, Xiao Budian reluctantly tore his gaze away from a firecracker stall and trotted all the way to Fireworks Alley. Dong dong dong. After the time it takes to burn a stick of incense within Fireworks Alley, Xiao Budian gently knocked on a courtyard gate. "A fey, come in." A deep voice rang out from within the courtyard. Creak. Xiao Budian slowly pushed open the courtyard gate. In the main room, a man dressed in sheepskin fur, unshaven, around 40 years old, gathered a dozen or so letters and placed them into a bundle. After handing the bundle to Xiao Budian, the man untied the coin purse at his waist and said, "A fey, there are 19 letters in total. Here are 19 copper coins. Hold on to them, don't lose them." Xiao Budian extended both hands to receive the 19 copper coins, carefully stuffing them one by one into the satchel at his waist. "Uncle Gore, rest assured, as long as I live, the letters will be delivered." The man rolled his eyes and said, "I meant the copper coins. If anything happens to you, your mother will flay me alive." "Kid, aren't you always smiling? Why is your face longer than my donkey's today?" Xiao Budian let out a sigh, sounding far older than his years. "Uncle Gore, my mother has been coughing non-stop these past few days. She's taken several doses of medicine, but there's no improvement. I go to the Divine Wood Forest every day to count out to the gods, but it's no use." The man pulled out the brass tobacco pipe tucked into his waist, lit it, took 2 puffs, and exhaled acrid smoke. "Kid, the reason it's useless is that your heart isn't sincere." Xiao Budian blinked his big eyes. "Uncle Guo, I think I'm very sincere. Extremely sincere. Sincere, my ass." The man shot 2 streams of smoke from his nostrils and said, "As the old saying goes, look up 3 feet, and the gods are watching. The gods in heaven see everything that mortals say and do clearly. Kid, to be honest with you, I have an ancient method of worshipping the gods that is very effective." Xiao Budian's eyes widened like brass bells. "Please teach me, uncle." Wherever there are people, there are rich and poor, noble and humble. Such was the town. Places like Fireworks Alley, where Uncle Guo lived, and Black Clothes Alley, where Xiao Budian lived, represented the town's poverty and lowliness. The yellow dirt roads that turned into mud when it rained, the crumbling yellow earth walls. The yellow earth courtyards that sent dust into the eyes when the wind blew, and rows of dilapidated tile-roofed houses barely standing. However, several alleys in the northeastern part represented the town's wealth. Grand mansions with deep courtyards, green bricks, and glazed tiles. The crisscrossing cobblestone paved lanes were so white they dazzled the eye. It was almost too clean. If not for delivering letters, Xiao Budian would never set foot in this area, even if he lived in the town his whole life. "We're here." At this moment, Xiao Budian stood before the gate of a mansion on Crouching Dragon Alley. Above the mansion hung a gilded plaque inscribed with the words, "Zhao Mansion." 2 imposing stone lions stood at the gate. Xiao Budian stepped forward and gently knocked. Dong dong dong. Shortly after, the vermilion gate creaked open a crack. The face of a young man, expressionless, looked down at Xiao Budian from above. His expression cold, his voice devoid of any emotion. He said, "What is it?" "A letter for the Zhao Mansion." Xiao Budian extended both hands and handed over the envelope. The young man reached out from behind the gate with a rough, calloused hand and gently pinched one corner of the envelope. With a clang, the gate closed. Xiao Budian lowered his head to look at his own small hands, which were not much better than the young man's. He turned them over and over for a while. Xiao Budian confirmed that his hands were very clean. The leaden thick clouds pressed very low. The north wind rattled the branches of the pear tree in the corner of the courtyard violently. Inside the small room, the woman struggled to sit up and took the bronze mirror from the windowsill. Looking at her own withered and ugly face in the mirror, she whispered, "At least I haven't stepped out all these years, so I haven't frightened any children." The younger generation in town all knew that deep in Black Clothes Alley lived a widow and her orphan. Rumor had it that the woman's flesh was rotting all over her body, crawling with maggots. Only the older generation knew that when the woman was young, the threshold of her home was nearly worn down by the countless men who came to propose marriage. Master Qi, who lived in front of the Divine Wood Forest by the Taiping River and presided over the town's only school, a man of great virtue and prestige, once said that on the woman's shoulders rested 300 years of spiritual essence of Qingping Town. Bony hands that were mere skin and bone. She picked up the wooden comb from the windowsill. The woman combed her sparse, withered hair stroke by stroke. After finishing her hair, she began to apply powder and rouge. After the time it takes to burn a stick of incense, Xiao Budian returned his arms full. "Son, what did you buy?" The woman smiled gently. "Mother, you are so beautiful today." Xiao Budian stared, eyes fixed. The woman teased, "Only beautiful today. Mother is more beautiful today than yesterday, and tomorrow will be more beautiful than today. Mother's beauty grows with each passing day." The woman's eyes instantly curved into 2 crescent moons. "My son's mouth is so sweet, girls will surely like you in the future." Xiao Budian immediately blushed. Mother, today, I earned 19 copper coins from Uncle Gua. I bought Door God's Spring Festival couplets and lanterns in advance. I didn't buy window decorations. The window decorations at the market aren't as beautiful as the ones you cut, Xiao Budian said as he displayed them. Son, Mother, what's wrong? My mouth tastes bitter. I want to eat a sugar-coated hawthorn stick. Mother, wait here. He'll go buy it for you right away. Buy 2 sticks, 1 for each of us. Got it, Mother. Half an hour later, Xiao Budian returned. Mother, Grandpa Lu is sick in bed. We'll have to wait until next year to eat sugar-coated hawthorn. But I bought a few pieces of brown sugar. Xiao Budian opened the oil paper, revealing several square, golden-brown pieces of raw sugar. The woman picked up the first piece and looked at Xiao Budian. Son, open your mouth. Xiao Budian obediently opened. The woman placed the piece of sugar into her son's mouth, watching his delighted expression, then smiled and picked up the second piece, putting it into her own mouth. Mother, is it sweet? Very sweet. Mother, this New Year's Eve, I want to eat dumplings stuffed with pork and green onion. No problem, you'll roll the wrappers, and I'll wrap them. Mother, it looks like it's going to snow. Son, go outside and look at the snow for Mother. The woman wrapped up the oil paper, leaving the remaining 3 pieces of sugar for her son to eat later. Through the window, watching her son standing in the courtyard with his little head tilted up, the woman whispered, Son, after Mother is gone, you must listen to your elder sister Chuyer and to your master. In this life, Mother only allows you to owe favors to your sister Chuyer and your master. Even if it's only millet rice, make sure you eat 2 meals a day and eat your fill. Remember to bathe every 3 days and keep yourself clean. Keep the habit of soaking your feet every day because that will keep your body warm and cozy. Son, Mother has given your sister Chuyer the padded jackets and pants for ages 10 to 20 along with new shoes. Son, no matter how late you are busy, don't forget to eat your meals hot and drink plenty of water. Son, Mother likes peach blossoms. Every year when the grass grows and orioles fly, don't forget to pick a peach blossom branch and place it on Mother's grave. Watching Xiao Budian wearing his tiger head hat and extending his little hand to catch snowflakes, the woman's bright eyes gradually dimmed. How could there be such a kind and lovely child in this world? And how could it be that he is my Nan Jinping's son? Son, Mother will turn into a star that is neither too bright nor too dim up in the sky, watching over you forever. Son, Mother is leaving now. As if suddenly a spring wind came overnight, thousands of pear trees burst into bloom. Snow fell heavily and thickly. The world was a vast expanse of white. Guazru, wearing a straw rain cape and a bamboo hat, puffing on his tobacco pipe, trudged through the snow toward the tavern. Pat, pat, pat. The sound of hurried footsteps came from behind. Before Guazru could look closely, a small figure had already brushed past him. It quickly dashed into the deep snowstorm. Boy, where are you going in such heavy snow? While running toward the divine wood forest, Xiao Budian first took off his shoes and socks. Barefoot, he stepped on the thick layer of snow like salt. Then he removed the outer hemp coat. Finally, the padded jacket and pants. Xiao Budian even took off his underpants. Soon outside the town in the northwestern area, Xiao Budian ran to the front of the divine wood forest. Naked, he kowtowed, surrendering his flesh and soul completely to the gods. This was what Uncle Guaziru had taught Xiao Budian. In the snowstorm, Xiao Budian fell to his knees on the snow with a thud. Gods above, may my mother be healthy, happy, and safe in her next life. In the snowstorm, Xiao Budian's little head bowed heavily, burying deep into the snow. Instantly, the snow melted into scalding water. The first snow of that year. The woman was gone. Xiao Budian grew from a boy into a youth. Like petals falling on flowing water, spring has departed, a realm of heaven and earth. Unbeknownst, 2.5 years have slipped by. Amidst the towering peaks and myriad cliffs, a youth clad in a short tunic scaled the craggy rocks and crossed the mountain streams as nimble as a wild monkey. As the first rays of the morning sun ascended, the youth arrived before the cave at the foot of Buzhou mountain. Though he had sprinted all the way from the small town, his breath was now steady and prolonged. Master, wake up. The sun is burning your backside, the youth called into the dim cave. A scraping, clattering sound drifted from the depths, and soon a colossal, ferocious python head came into view. Its pupils, like golden candles, were a blazing, blood-red vertical slits that gazed down upon the youth from on high. Zhu Jiuyin suddenly opened its massive maw and let out a great yawn. Your eyes look more and more like your mother's. The little tyke from before had long since grown, now worthy of being called a youth. Though his frame was still slender and lean, his body brimmed with the vigorous vitality of his age. With thick dark hair and bright large eyes, he resembled a young leopard. It's normal for a son to look like his mother, master. A fay flashed a brilliant smile, revealing a full set of snow-white teeth. Master, it's been 2.5 years. Your disciple's foundation is unshakably solid. Don't you think it's time to teach me swordsmanship? 2.5 years. So fast. The crimson python lowered its head to the ground, basking lazily in the sun. Inside the cave, its tail shrouded in shadow gave a light flick. With a sharp whoosh, a heavy iron sword as broad as a door panel flew out of the cave and embedded itself with a sharp clang before a fay. The great sword was blunt-edged, entirely pitch-black as if soaked in an ink vat for centuries, yet its blade shimmered with a faint crimson glow. Zhu Jiuyin said calmly, "The profound iron-heavy sword weighs over 130 caddies. My good disciple, if you wish to learn swordsmanship, first hold this sword level for 2 hours." A Fei's throat bobbed as he swallowed hard. He stepped forward, gripped the heavy sword's hilt with both hands, sank his chi into his dantian, let out a low shout, and strained his arms with all his might. He managed to pull the profound iron-heavy sword free, but the overexerted youth staggered back a few steps and fell hard on his backside, grimacing as the gravel bit into his flesh. "Master, it doesn't seem that heavy." "You're right. Master, don't underestimate your disciple. All these years of running through the mountains haven't been for nothing." A Fei gripped the hilt with his right hand and heaved the heavy sword upward. His entire right arm formed a straight line with the profound iron-heavy sword. 10 seconds passed. The youth gritted his teeth. A minute and he was drenched in sweat. 2 minutes and his right arm trembled uncontrollably. His face was redder than a monkey's backside. At the 7th minute, with a heavy thud, the profound iron-heavy sword hit the ground, smashing several pebbles to dust. The youth now looked utterly disheveled, as if he had just been pulled from the water. Wet hair clung to his forehead and temples, and his short tunic was soaked through. He panted like an ox. "Master, it hurts. It hurts so much. The muscles in my arm feel like they're on fire." A Fei pinched his right arm and hissed, sucking in a sharp breath of cold air. Indeed, every touch was agony. The crimson python's mouth curled slightly. "Does your face hurt?" A Fei said sheepishly, "It hurts like hell. A 3-foot-thick ice is not formed in a single day of cold. Don't rush. Take it slow. First get used to the weight of the profound iron-heavy sword." A Fei nodded. After resting a while, he gripped the heavy sword with both hands and began to swing it slowly, stroke by stroke. "Disciple." "Master, what's up?" "Your master has not walked among the mortal world for many years. What is the outside world like now?" "Master, I once heard Mr. Qi say that the continent we're on is called Xiangang." A Fei swung the sword as he spoke. "The Xiangang continent is home to 10 great nations standing side by side with 100 schools of thought contending. They say it's 10 nations, but in truth there are dozens if not hundreds, though most are small states with only a few provinces. Beiki, Beijing, Dazhou, Daqing, Dali, Baiyue, Diro, Daxia, Dashang, Wuqian. These 10 are the most powerful countries on the Xiangang continent today. These nations interlock like jagged teeth, frequently clashing in war. As these titans collide, 100 schools of thought have emerged, nurturing 100 nations and 1,000 beauties. Master, as for Buzhou Mountain, it's located in the southwestern reaches of Baoping Prefecture, one of the 13 prefectures of the state of Wei. This is the 29th year of Emperor Wenjing's reign in Wei. I heard from Uncle Gua that Emperor Wenjing is gravely ill and doesn't have many days left." Zhu Jiuyin asked, "This is the imperial court. What of the Jianghu? How is the martial realm divided on this continent? Do Qi cultivators possess the power to burn the heavens and boil the seas?" A Fei asked in astonishment, "Master, what is a Qi cultivator?" "Qi cultivators are immortals' cultivators." "What are immortals? What are cultivators?" "Get lost." "All right." The sun set in the west. The youth who had been swinging the profound iron-heavy sword all day returned to the small town. "A Fei, come over quick, have some tofu." At a stall, a girl in a green dress named Lu Chuier waved at the youth. "Coming." The youth joyfully ran over and sat down at the tofu stand. The tender white tofu was crushed with chopsticks, sprinkled with a pinch of fine salt, drizzled with sesame oil, and garnished with chopped scallions and cilantro. Lu Chuier handed the youth a large bowl full of mixed tofu. The youth wolfed it down greedily. "A Fei, are you short on money? Why do I always see you heading deep into the mountains with a medicine basket? Don't tell me it's to see Mr. Nanju. For the past 2 years, whenever you have nothing to do, you're out digging herbs, delivering letters for Uncle Gua, or fishing in the Taiping River. A Fei, if you need money, just tell your sister." Lu Chuier said, her eyes filled with concern. "Sister Chuier, the reason I'm running all over the world is to save up money to have Uncle Han from Jifeng Alley forge a sword for me." "A sword, eh?" Lu Chuier asked in shock. "What do you need a sword for?" The youth put down his chopsticks, took out a handkerchief, and wiped his mouth. He said with a beaming smile, "Sister Chuier, I've decided that when I grow up I'm going to leave this town and explore the Jianghu. A Jianghu of flashing blades, gleaming swords, and dashing heroes in splendid attire." On his way home, A Fei saw Grandpa Lu selling candied hawthorns. Those glossy, crystal-clear red fruits coated in syrup were enough to make anyone's mouth water just by looking at them. A Fei didn't buy any. Not because he had no money, but because he never wanted to eat them again, even though he had never tasted one. He returned to the earthen courtyard on Wui Lane. A Fei first lit a fire and boiled a pot of hot water. Then he washed away the dust of the day. He went into the main room, lit 3 incense sticks, and placed them in the burner. He bowed before his mother's spirit tablet. "Mother, it has been 897 days since you left your son. Today, Master officially began teaching me swordsmanship. That profound iron-heavy sword is incredibly heavy. My arms are still trembling. Today I had a full bowl of mixed tofu, and I still didn't pay. Otherwise Sister Chuayer would start nagging like a chanting monk and weeping like a bodhisattva. Mother Sister Chuayer has been truly happy these past 6 months, happier than ever before, because Brother Lishan has gone out to work. Sister Chuayer doesn't have to get beaten anymore. The setting sun streamed into the room. The youth talked to himself before the spirit tablet. The next day, early morning. Oh. A blood-curdling scream suddenly erupted from the eastern side room of the small courtyard. Inside the room, on the wooden bed, feeling the needle-like stabbing pain in every inch of flesh in his arms, A-Fei's face was as pale as paper. Why does it hurt so much? It felt like his arms were being sawn apart. With a hiss of inhaled cold air, A-Fei struggled into his clothes and went out. Half an hour later, the sun rose in the east. A-Fei arrived at the town's only blacksmith shop on Jifeng Alley. Inside the drafty shop, charcoal crackled and burned in the forge, emitting wisps of acrid smoke. Several bare-chested, robust men were constantly swinging hammers, striking red-hot iron bars again and again. Sparks flew by the millions. The dim room was lit up. Beads of hot sweat coated in soot rolled down the men's bodies, which seemed cast from bronze and iron. A-Fei's eyes were as wide as brass bells, filled with envy. "Hey kid from Wu Lane, what brings you here today to watch me work the iron?" A short, stocky man with a gleaming bald head walked out of the shop. He pulled the cloth draped around his neck and wiped the sweat from his face. "Uncle Han, how dare you? Who's your uncle?" The bald man glared, eyes wide with fury like an enraged tiger. "A Brother Han, I'd like to ask you to forge a sword for me. I got a blueprint." "Yes." A-Fei pulled a neatly folded square of rice paper from his sleeve, unfolded it, and handed it over. The bald man took the paper and looked down at it. "This drawing is crap. You call this a sword? It's not even 1% as thick as what's between my legs." The bald man tossed the paper back to the youth. "Spit it out, little lady. When do you want the sword? Let me make this clear first. I'm swamped these days. I don't have time to forge your embroidery needle." The youth asked curiously, "Brother Han, what are you so busy with?" The bald man gave a mirthless grin, staring at the youth. "I'm forging a peerless treasure blade, a dragon-slaying blade." "A dragon-slaying blade?" The youth murmured. "Enough chatter. When do you want the sword?" "A Brother Han, about the fee." The bald man stretched out his calloused hand. "Fair price, 500 taels of pure silver." The youth likewise stretched out his small hand and, gritting his teeth, said, "5 taels." "Ha ha ha." The bald man's laugh was loud and scornful, shaking dust loose from the rafters of the smithy. "Kid." The laughter stopped abruptly. The bald man glared fiercely at the youth, whose face was full of panic. "Deal." "Master, I have gathered the information. The immortal firmament martial arts is divided into external refinement and internal refinement. As for the ranks of martial artists, there are 9 grades in total. They are further subdivided into upper 3 grades, middle 3 grades, and lower 3 grades. The 9th, 8th, and 7th are the lower 3 grades, which correspond to the skin and membrane realm. The 6th, 5th, and 4th are the middle 3 grades, which correspond to the sinew and bone realm. The 3rd, 2nd, and 1st are the upper 3 grades, which correspond to the viscera and organ realm. The skin and membrane realm and the sinew and bone realm are external refinement, which does not impose strict requirements on one's innate talent and bone structure and is relatively easy to achieve accomplishments. An ordinary person, after tempering their physical body for 3 to 5 years, can ascend to the rank of a 9th grade martial artist. The viscera and organ realm, however, belongs to internal refinement and requires extremely high talent and comprehension, as well as a renowned master to impart their knowledge without reservation. For the viscera and organ realm, a top-tier superior internal refinement technique is of utmost importance. To summarize in one sentence, external refinement tempers the sinews, bones, and skin. Internal refines a single breath. External refinement depends on time. Even a pig, after tempering for 200 or 300 years, could ascend to the rank of a 4th grade martial artist. Internal refinement depends on talent, bone structure, natural comprehension, and opportunity. None of these can be lacking. The vast majority of 4th grade martial artists, even after decades of internal refinement, find it difficult to even touch the threshold of the 3rd grade. A-Fei sat cross-legged before the cave, speaking with ease and confidence. Zhu Jiuyin, lying on the ground, lifted his eyelids slightly. "All of this? Did that Mr. Chi tell you?" A-Fei shook his head. "It was Uncle Han from the blacksmith shop in Gale Alley. In a town this small, there are hidden dragons and crouching tigers." "What about chi refiners?" Zhu Jiuyin asked. "Uncle Han scolded me, asking if I had been reading too many tales of gods and demons." A-Fei replied. Zhu Jiuyin narrowed his crimson vertical pupils slightly. "Could it be that there are no chi refiners in this world? By the way, Master, Uncle Han also said that after external refinement martial artists temper their bodies, they need to soak in medicinal baths as soon as possible to repair and nourish their depleted blood and chi. Otherwise, it's very easy to become crippled or ruin their cultivation." A-Fei gently shook his 2 dangling arms. "Master, it hurts too much. I can't even lift them." If I don't rest for 10 or 15 days, I'll even have trouble going to the latrine. Zhu Jiuyin rolled his eyes and asked, is the medicinal bath expensive? Ah Fei gave a bitter smile. Disciple went to the Yang family pharmacy to ask. The cheapest medicinal bath for external refinement martial artists costs 100 taels of silver. That's not cheap at all. Zhu Jiuyin clicked his tongue. The poor study, the rich practice martial arts. The ancients did not deceive me. Master, your disciple's entire fortune can't even buy the dregs of that medicinal bath. Maybe we should just forget it. Zhu Jiuyin cast a sidelong glance at the youth. In the end, it's just about nourishing blood and qi. Follow me. His thick python body slithered towards the depths of the cave. The youth followed closely. After the time it takes an incense stick to burn, Ah Fei stared at the pile of crimson spirit fruits before him, his eyes wide, with shock nearly popping out of their sockets. What nonsense medicinal bath? Can it compare to your master's crimson fragrance fruit? Zhu Jiuyin said with an air of nonchalance. Eat as much as you want. Eat heartily. Eat to your heart's content. With a parched throat, Ah Fei grabbed a fruit. Crunch, crunch, he bit into it, sending juice flying. The juice mixed with the pulp slid down into his stomach. Ah Fei immediately felt a warmth and lightness throughout his body and a slight itch in his arms. After one crimson fragrance fruit entered his belly, Ah Fei tried to move his arms. The stabbing and aching sensations had vanished without a trace. Does it still hurt? Zhu Jiuyin asked. It doesn't hurt anymore. Ah Fei shook his head. If it doesn't hurt, then get out there and lift the sword. The blazing sun and the bright moon. To the south of Buzhou Mountain, before the cave beneath two peach trees by the cliff, a tender youth holding a heavy black iron sword had appeared from somewhere. Sometimes swinging, sometimes holding it level. Sometimes the youth was so exhausted he panted like an ox lying sprawled on the lush soft grass. Sometimes he was elated, cheering and jumping for joy. Master, I lasted 197 more heartbeats than yesterday. Whenever this happened, the crimson python basking in the sun at the cave entrance would lazily belittle him. A minute or two, what's there to be happy about? Keep training. Time flowed on day by day. Summer passed and autumn arrived. On this day, the youth was lifting the sword. He had already persisted for his expression was one of complete composure and ease. As for the crimson python, a small mountain of plump juicy peaches was piled before him, and he would occasionally lower his head to eat a few. Suddenly, the cold mechanical voice of the system rang out in his mind. Ding detected that host's disciple Chun Mingfei has successfully advanced to the rank of a 9th grade martial artist. Master-disciple reversion system active. Disciples named Chun Mingfei. Talent innate, sword embryo. Age 12. Cultivation 9th grade 0. 3100. After years of nurturing, the seed had finally sprouted. Zhu Jiuyin felt a surge of emotion, as if tears of joy might fall. Unfortunately, only on the day Ah Fei's body perished and his Tao vanished would the system return the youth's entire cultivation to him. Disciple. Master, there are no more peaches on the tree. The crimson python gently flicked its tail. Amidst a sound of air being torn, an object shot out from the cave. With a sharp clang, it embedded itself in the ground before the youth. A rusted iron sword. Master, this is. The youth exclaimed in astonishment. A brilliant divine light blazed forth. Zhu Jiuyin transformed into human form. He walked forward a few steps and pulled out the iron sword. Disciple, open your eyes wide and watch carefully. This sword technique is called falling petals. The falling petals sword technique was tailored by the system for Ah Fei, the innate sword embryo. It not only provided a method for external refinement, but also contained a complete internal refinement technique. It was sufficient to allow the youth to attain the rank of a 1st grade martial artist. Autumn passed, and winter arrived. Zhu Jiuyin took back the iron sword, and gave Ah Fei a soft sword that was like a silk ribbon. First run through the mountains to forge a strong and robust body. Then use the heavy sword to temper strength. Then the hard sword to practice the falling petals sword technique. Then the soft sword to refine details and achieve complete control over his power to the point of being able to release and retract it at will. Finally switch back to the hard sword, and at that moment he would soar to the heavens. Winter, the 29th year of Wenjing's reign. A cold wave raged. The world was bleak and desolate. With a swish, the soft, pliable sword grazed the youth's cheek, causing a gush of blood. Master, it's too difficult. It's not simple at all. Afraid the soft sword would cut his cotton-padded jacket and trousers, the youth took off all his clothes, leaving only a pair of shorts. At that moment, the youth held the belt-like soft sword on the verge of tears, his body covered in cuts. The crimson python lying at the cave entrance waiting for its hibernation period opened its massive maw and yawned. Disciple, is water soft? Of course. Have you ever experienced a flood? No. Have you? The youth nodded. My mother told me that in the 17th year of Wenjing's reign it rained continuously for over 2 months in Qixiao Prefecture, Baoping Prefecture, causing a flood. The monstrous floodwaters breached a 100-li-long sturdy dike, engulfing the entire Qixiao Prefecture, leaving hundreds of thousands of victims. Zhu Jiuyin asked. Since water is something soft, how could it breach a sturdy dike? The youth seemed lost in thought. Summer the 30th year of Wenjing's reign. Ding detected that host's disciple Chun Mingfei has successfully advanced to the rank of an 8th grade martial artist. That year the youth was 13 and could be considered proficient with the soft sword. Autumn the 31st year of Wenjing's reign. That year the youth successfully advanced to the rank of a 7th grade martial artist. He also switched back to the hard sword. Summer the 32nd year of Wenjing's reign. That year the youth was 15. His realm had reached the peak of the 7th grade, only a step away from the 6th grade of the middle 3 grades. Early morning. The small town appeared faintly visible in the thin mist. Deep within Black Clothes Alley. With a creak, the door to the eastern wing room was pushed open. A youth dressed in shorts, a short shirt, and straw sandals with a wooden sword hanging from his waist came into the courtyard. He gently closed his eyes, greedily breathing in the fresh air. Now the youth was tall and slender, his casually tied long hair jet black and thick. No longer the scrawny little boy. He untied the pouch from his waist. The youth weighed it in his hand a couple of times. The copper coins clinked against each other, producing a crisp, pleasant jingling sound. Finally saved up 5 taels of silver. Now I can have Uncle Han Han open his forge and make a sword for me. With a radiant smile, the youth stepped out of the courtyard gate. After the time it takes an incense stick to burn. Gale Alley. Looking at the locked blacksmith shop, the youth frowned slightly. Is Uncle Han not open? The morning sun had just risen. The youth walked out of the small town. Just as he was about to head towards Buzhou Mountain, he suddenly saw a carriage approaching from afar on the ancient road. A luxurious carriage pulled by 3 white horses crossed the town's covered bridge and slowly made its way towards that fenced yard beside Taiping River. Flanking the carriage were 2 more white horses carrying 2 women. They were too far away, he could only make out tall, slender figures, not their clear features. They've come to see Mr. Qi. Murmuring to himself, Ah Fei withdrew his gaze and plunged into the mountain forest. I wonder if Master will agree. The youth, sprinting swiftly through the woods, was now in a state of utter turmoil. Because that man had returned. That drifter, named Zhong Lishan. Poor Sister Chuyer, she hasn't been able to get out of bed for 3 days already. If Master gives his permission, my utterly depraved brother Lishan, your good little brother, will slice you into 1,000 pieces. Before the cave beneath Buzhou Mountain, a bare-chested youth hoisted a 1,000-pound boulder above his head, performing deep squats in a steady rhythm. The scorching summer sun blazed down upon him, each bead of sweat tracing a path over his firm pectorals and chiseled abdomen. Master, he called out. The crimson python hidden in the cool shade of the cave barely lifted its eyelids. Speak, it said indifferently. That brother of mine, Zhong Lishan, who dabbles in every vice with equal skill, returned to the town a few days ago. He beat Sister Chuyer black and blue, then took all the silver she had painstakingly saved over the years and went off to the gambling den to have his fun. The crimson python drawled, and so. A dull thud echoed as the youth slammed the boulder to the ground. His pitch-black pupils gleamed with a chilling light. Disciple wishes to kill brother Zhong Lishan. I beseech Master's permission. The crimson python said breezily. Deep within the cave you'll find all manner of weapons. Choose whatever you wish. Moreover, be ruthless and decisive, silent as a shadow. If possible, burn the corpse to ashes. Then scatter the ashes to the wind. The town has Peace River, or you could sprinkle them into its waters. Taking a life is not the crux, erasing all traces is paramount. Do you understand? The youth nodded firmly. Engraved upon my heart. Summer skies changed in an instant. One moment the sun lingered at the horizon, the clouds burning crimson as blood. The next, dark clouds pressed down like a weight, and a fierce gale howled. Rolling black clouds resembled an inverted ocean so vast that even hurling mountains into it would raise not a single ripple. A blinding bolt of lightning first descended from the dark sea, illuminating the world as bright as day. Then came the deafening crash. It rolled from one end of the dark sea to the other. Thunder. Rain. Time to gather the clothes. A youth with wild flowing black hair, a wooden sword, and a rusted iron sword hanging at his waist returned to the town. From afar he spotted Uncle Guaziru squatting at the entrance of Wui Alley, puffing on his pipe. 6 years had passed, some had grown, others had aged. Uncle Gua, who had lost all 3 sons to war, was now withered beyond recognition. His hair was a mess of white and his face was like cracked ancient bark. Uncle Gua, who are you waiting for? Afei approached and called out softly. The old man, head bowed in a cloud of smoke, looked up sharply and grasped the youth's wrist. Afei, earlier today I saw that girl Chuyer being taken from her home by people from the Zhao mansion. The youth's body trembled. The Zhao family of Wulong Lane. Uncle Gua nodded. The youth spun around and sprinted towards Wulong Lane. His straw sandals slapped against the bluestone street as his heart pounded fiercely in his chest. In his young life, only 3 people mattered: his mother, his master, and Sister Chuyer. To him, his master was a father and Sister Chuyer was a second mother. No, Sister Chuyer, please don't let anything happen. As night fell and the heavens opened their floodgates, Fei rushed to the depths of Wulong Lane. Catching his breath, the youth looked up at the gilded plaque. Zhao Mansion. The only gambling den in town was run by the Zhao. Could it be that Zhong Lishan's sold sister Chuyer? Composing himself, Fei stepped forward and gently knocked on the. With a creak, the door cracked open. An aged face appeared. The well-dressed old man looked Fei up and down and asked, "Young man, whom do you seek?" Fei smiled. "Old uncle, I'm looking for Lu Chuyer. She's my sister. Earlier a neighbor said he saw her being taken by your Zhao Mansion. It's getting dark and it's about to rain. She hasn't come home, so I came to check." The old man sighed softly. "Child, Fei's heart tightened. Old uncle, what? What do you mean?" A look of pity crossed the old man's face as a withered hand emerged from his sleeve. His thumb and forefinger rubbed together meaningfully. Fei immediately untied the pouch from his waist and handed it over. "Old uncle, a small token, please accept it." Taking the pouch, the old man weighed it, listening to the jingle of copper coins and silver. He smiled benevolently. "Young man, was your sister wearing an emerald green dress?" Fei nodded. "Child, you're too late. That girl, she was. The young master's hounds. Do you want the bones? If you do, this old man will gather them for you." Those hounds of the young master hadn't been fed for days. They were ravenous. They even crunched up the thinner bones. The old man droned on. Fei felt dizzy, as if his soul had left his body. "Old uncle, I do. Every single bone, please gather them for me." "And uncle, how did my sister die? Who is this young master you speak of?" The old man narrowed his cloudy eyes. "The young master is a guest from the Wei capital of noble status. His carriage alone requires 3 fine horses to pull. Even my master treats him with the utmost respect. As for that girl, your sister, well, a debt must be paid. It's only natural. Her husband owed our Zhao gambling den 300 taels of silver, and it's been years without repayment. My master was at his wit's end with that shameless scoundrel. Beating him didn't work, and killing him meant never getting the money back. Today, when that young master came to our mansion, he sent men to round up many debtors and force them to sign indentures. Your brother-in-law, he signed your sister's indenture. That's why our Zhao Mansion dared to take her in broad daylight. After all, whether commoner or noble, we all must abide by the laws of Wei. Isn't that right?" The youth smiled and asked, "And then?" The old man replied, "Then that young master personally flayed several of the debtors. I was there. Young man, your sister was truly remarkable. From start to finish, she didn't utter a single sound. Not like the others, who screamed as if their own mothers had died. After the time it takes an incense stick to burn." The gate opened. With a dull thud, the old man tossed a bloodstained sack before Fei. "Young man, be off now. If the master sees, he'll be scolded." The gate slammed shut. The youth crouched down, his hand trembling violently as he reached out. From the sack, he pulled out an emerald green garment. The dress was stained crimson with blood, a horrifying sight. The youth took a deep breath and layer by layer unfolded the tightly wrapped cloth. A thunderclap crashed down. The youth's pupils shrank to pinpricks. Inside the dress lay a pile of bones. Shreds of flesh and blood clung to them, every bone marked with clear bite wounds. "Sister Chuyer." He wrapped the bones in the green dress. Holding the bundle close, he inhaled the achingly familiar scent. Tears streamed down his face as the rain poured down. In the wind and rain drenched to the bone, the youth fell to his knees, head bowed, clutching the dress tightly against his chest. Fei could not recall when his memories first began. Perhaps it was at a few months old, perhaps at 1 year, perhaps when the infant in swaddling clothes could recognize faces. The first face Fei remembered was not his mother's, but Sister Chuyer's. Sister Chuyer was only 11 or 12 years old back then, still a budding young girl. The girl would hold the baby every day. Sometimes she would make funny faces at the infant, sometimes she would tirelessly shake a rattle drum. When the baby giggled, the girl would laugh along with him. Dark clouds rolled, thunder raged. The river in the sky poured down, battering the roof tiles with a deafening clatter. The young man slowly rose to his feet. He tightened the green garment wrapped around the bundle of Sister Chuyer's bones. In the wind and rain, the youth's thin frame suddenly swayed, as if intoxicated. The youth felt as if 2 invisible giant hands had materialized before him. One hand gripped his throat in a stranglehold, nearly suffocating him. The other clutched his heart with an unbearable, crushing pain. Summoning all his strength in his arms, the youth seemed to want to press that soaking green dress and that pile of bones into his very chest. "Sister Chuyer, let's go home." The sky was dim, the rain poured in torrents. There was a gentle and beautiful sister whom the youth would never see again. The rain continued to fall. Deep in the alley, a lamp flickered like a pea. The shadow of a massive skull cast upon the wall swayed slightly with the candle flame. The youth was washing clothes. He wrung out the garment, and bloody water splashed into a copper basin filled with crimson. After washing Sister Chuyer's green dress clean, the youth took a cloth and by the candlelight meticulously wiped the rain from the pile of bones again. Finally, he fetched a small stool and a whetstone, sat under the eaves, and began to sharpen a sword. He sharpened that rusty iron sword. Tonight the youth was going to kill someone. The sound of sharpening pierced the depths of the wind and rain. As time passed, chunks of rust fell away. The youth's face was as pale and bleak as snow, one hand pressing on the blade, the other gripping the hilt. He repeated the motion again and again. No one knew how much time had passed. The rust-encrusted iron sword finally shed all its impurities. The long, straight blade was clear as autumn water, glinting with a chilling light. The youth rose and walked into the house. Looking at the pile of bones on the table, he said softly, "Sister Cui, don't be afraid. They'll let Brother Lishan go keep you company right away." Gripping the iron sword tightly, the youth left the house. Stepping on the soft, muddy yellow earth, he walked out of his own yard. Then with a loud bang, he kicked open the gate of the neighboring yard. The youth didn't know if that man was at home sleeping. It didn't matter. No matter where he was dead for sure. Entering the yard, he arrived before the main house. The youth gently pushed open the door. With a creak, the wooden door opened a crack. A strong smell of alcohol rushed out. Though the room was dark, the youth immediately saw the man holding a wine jar fast asleep on the bed. The youth loosened his grip. The iron sword fell easily, piercing the ground. "Zhong Lishan, you are not worthy of dying by the sword." Murmuring softly, the youth walked towards the utility room. Soon he returned carrying an axe. He pushed the door open and entered the room. Silently, he walked to the bedside, looking at the man sleeping soundly. The youth raised the axe high. Aiming at the man's knee, he brought the axe down with savage force. The youth was now a peak 7th-rank martial artist, easily capable of lifting a 1,000-gene boulder. With a full-powered swing of the axe, a crack sounded as he cleaved through the man's right lower leg. The axe blade embedded itself deep into the bedboard. A heart-wrenching scream pierced the curtain of rain. Even drunk as a skunk, the man was jolted awake by the excruciating pain of his severed leg. He saw the youth, his face splattered with blood, slowly raising the sharp axe again. Fighting through the pain, the man asked in terror, "Afei, what are you doing?" The youth replied expressionlessly, "I'm going to chop you into a pile of meat paste." The second axe fell fiercely. One axe, another axe, another. The youth lost count of how many times he swung. When he finally stopped, the man was no longer recognizable as a human being. Thick, sticky blood dripped continuously through the cracks of the bed. Smelling the pungent stench of blood, the youth's expression was one of neither sorrow nor joy. There was no fear of a first kill. He dropped the blunted axe, and the youth, covered in blood from head to toe, walked out of the house. He pulled the iron sword from the ground and returned to his own yard. Entering the house, Afei wrapped that pile of bones in the green garment. Then he placed the green garment along with his mother's spirit tablet into a bundle. Meticulously, he let his gaze sweep over every corner of the house he had lived in for 15 years. The youth was silent for a long time, then bent down and gently blew out the candle on the table. The rain had lessened considerably from a torrential downpour to a light drizzle. Standing in the small yard, the youth's eyes, almost identical to his mother's, scanned every object within the courtyard. "Time to go," the youth murmured. He tightened his grip on the iron sword. For the last time, he walked out of the small yard. He never returned. Rainy night. In the northwestern part of the town, the wicker-fenced courtyard nestled before the sacred wood forest, and beside the Taiping River was silent. In the main hall of the tiled house, a man in a blue robe who had been sitting cross-legged suddenly opened his slightly closed eyes. "Come in." A voice as warm and smooth as jade drifted into the dark, rainy night. The man in blue waved his sleeve, and the candle on the desk a few steps away ignited spontaneously. The sound of footsteps pattering drew near and finally stopped before the door. The youth's hoarse voice sounded, "Sir, my feet are all muddy. I won't come inside." The man in blue waved his hand again. With a creak, the door slowly swung open. Before the door stood a youth in coarse linen clothes, a bundle on his shoulder, a wooden sword at his waist, and an iron sword clutched tightly in his hand. Wet hair clung to his forehead and temples, his thin lips pressed tightly together. "Sir, Sister Cui is dead." The youth reached out his hand and gently patted the bundle. "Her skull is inside." The man in blue lowered his eyelids and asked, "So?" The youth replied expressionlessly, "The so-called young master of that steward Zhao's household had Sister Cui skinned alive. He also let vicious dogs maul and tear Sister Cui to death, devouring her until nothing was left. I cannot swallow this anger, sir." The man in blue sighed softly and said, "Child, that young man is the 9th son of Emperor Wenjing of the current Wei Kingdom. Do you understand what this identity means to you?" The youth nodded. "I understand. That young master is the cloud in the sky while I am the mud on the ground. He is a dragon's son while I am but a worm in a ditch. If I truly kill him, the Wei Kingdom will have no place for me. I will be chased like a dog all over the world by the experts of the Wei capital day and night. For the rest of my life, I will be displaced, never again able to sleep a peaceful night's sleep. But sir," the youth ground his teeth, speaking word by word, "is Sister Cui supposed to have died for nothing? Can a prince of the Wei capital kill without paying for it with his life? Sir, I cannot swallow this anger. Sir, this world should not be like—" Looking at the youth, whose handsome face was twisted and contorted with overwhelming hatred, the man in blue felt a tremor in his heart. "Sir, will my master be put in danger because of what I do?" So that was it. The man in blue's eyes dimmed. The youth had not come to inquire about the true identity of that way capital prince. Because whoever he was, the youth was determined to kill him. The only thing the youth worried about was that his actions might implicate that master of his. What makes me inferior to that cold-blooded beast? The man in blue murmured in his heart. Child, have you ever seen your master fight? The youth nodded. The awe-inspiring sight of his master cleaving a mountain with a single sword strike was still vivid in his memory. Child, your master is far more powerful than you imagine. As for the ninth prince, he has 2 fourth-rank martial artists guarding him closely, rotating day and night. However, the party has traveled a long way from the capital. They are fatigued from the journey, and with the sudden downpour, those 2 martial artists will likely choose to rest for the night. Child, tonight is your only chance to assassinate the ninth prince. Good luck. The youth stepped back twice. He lowered his head and bent his spine towards the man in blue. Sir, this is the last time I will see you. Goodbye, sir. Watching the youth's thin figure quickly vanish into the rainy night, the man in blue murmured softly, Goodbye, child. The rain ceased. A round jade disk hung high in the heart of the sky. Moonlight spilled like liquid silver onto the earth. The long street, paved with bluestone slabs, was utterly deserted. At the northeastern quarter of the small town, a Fei arrived at Granny Tang's garment shop. The blade of his iron sword, thin as a cicada's wing, slipped into the gap between the 2 wooden door planks, and he gently pried. With a soft click, the door latch gave way. A Fei carefully pushed open a crack, slipped inside, and was greeted by a dazzling array of splendid garments. A Fei selected a set of night attire for himself, then tore a piece of black cloth to mask his face. Finally, he placed on the counter the few silver coins he had earlier taken from Zhong Lishan's person. Granny Tang, sorry for the intrusion, he whispered softly. He crept out of the garment shop, and under the moon, made straight for Wulong Lane. Deep within Wulong Lane, the Zhao family mansion. In the main hall at the third watch, lamps still blazed brightly. On a chair of Wang Wali sat a handsome, young noble in brocade attire. His face, with sword-like brows, starry eyes, red lips, and white teeth, was more beautiful than that of most women. At the moment, the young man was holding a piece of skin in his slender hands, examining it closely. Every corner of the main hall was draped with complete skins like garments waiting to be dried, dripping with viscous crimson. With a creak, the main hall door swung open. Several male servants of the Zhao mansion ushered in a middle-aged man of about 40 and a little girl of 6 or 7, followed by the Zhao family steward. It's late. How many more? The young man put away the facial skin in his hand and turned his narrow eyes to the steward. The old steward quickly stepped forward, his eyes downcast, and said respectfully, Young master, these are the last 2. He gestured toward the trembling man kneeling 2 zhang away. Young master, this man is called Shueshu. He lives on Jifeng Lane and owes our gambling den 79 taels and 3 qian of silver. Then he pointed to the little girl whose face was streaked with crystal tears. The little girl is Qin Rose, 7.5 years old. She lives on Qingxing Lane. Her father owes 33 taels and 9 qian of silver. The young man cast a cold glance at the girl, who cowered like a frightened kitten. Has the indenture contract been signed? The steward nodded vigorously like a chicken pecking rice. Her father has already signed. You may leave. The young man waved his hand. The steward immediately withdrew, with the servants closing the door behind them. He took a cloth and wiped his blood-stained hands as he murmured, This must be your first time seeing me. Let me introduce myself. I am Zhao Jin, the 9th son of Emperor Wenjing of the Wei Kingdom. Ever since I can remember, I have been alone guarding a vast empty palace. I was bored to madness. I wished so much that my mother would come and keep me company. She wouldn't need to do anything, just talk to me. Even for a day, even for an hour, even for a quarter of an hour would have been fine. But every time I sent a maid to her, she would bring back the same message. She always said to wait a little longer. Wait a little longer, wait a little longer, just 2 more days, and mother will come see you. The young man's hand gripping the cloth suddenly tightened. Later she died, a victim of the treacherous consort intrigues. To be precise, the emperor believed she had dared to poison the emperor's food. She died horribly. The eunuchs forced an entire flask of poisoned wine down her throat, and her whole body dissolved into a pool of blood. In my entire life, I saw her only 9 times, totaling less than 2 hours. I hate her because she never kept her promises. She always said she would come, but she never did. The young man looked down at the kneeling man, and my mother was just like you deadbeats. When borrowing money, you put on a shameless face and promise to repay on time. Once the money is spent, you become brazen with an arrogant "what can you do to me" attitude. The young man's hand reached for the boning knife on the table. Step by step, he walked toward the man, who was trembling with terror. I, Zhao Jin, have 3 great passions in this life. First, raising fierce dogs. Second, flaying the skin off people who break their promises. Third, watching my fierce dogs devour you, stripped of your skin to the last morsel. The boning knife glinted coldly. The young man smiled faintly at the little girl, whose eyes were wide with terror. Little girl, don't be afraid. Big brother will preserve you forever. It was not until the 4th watch that the young man finally stepped out of the main hall. The old steward waiting outside quickly motioned. Two maids immediately came forward, one carrying a copper basin, the other holding a cloth. The young man dipped his hands into the basin, and the clear water instantly turned crimson. Throw the corpses into the dog cages. At dawn hang all the skins on the memorial archway at the entrance of the town. Let these stubborn rabble from this god-forsaken land understand that debt must be repaid. That is the way of heaven and earth. The old steward replied respectfully, "As you command, young master." After about the time it takes to burn a stick of incense under the guidance of a maid, the young man traversed the winding corridors of the Zhao mansion and arrived at a chamber door. Dismissing the maid, the young man pushed the door open and entered. He took something from his sleeve, a rolled-up skin. He carefully unrolled it. His fingers, as delicate as a woman's, gently stroked the flawless skin. "I have never seen anyone as—" the young man murmured, his mind conjuring the tall figure of the young woman from that day. "In all these years I have flayed nearly 1,000 people, if not 800. The woman in the green Zhu Jiuyin was the first who throughout the entire ordeal never uttered a single cry, not even a groan of pain. Lu Chuier, I think that was her name." The young man moved gently, slowly rolling up the skin. "You will be my greatest masterpiece." He treasured the skin and stored it in a jade box. Before long he blew out the candle, lay down on the comfortable soft bed, and slept in his clothes. Though his eyes were closed, sleep would not come. The struggle of 9 dragons for the throne, how brutal it was. Why was I, Zhao Jin, the first to be eliminated? Thank heavens the emperor hasn't passed away yet, otherwise I would never have left the Wei capital alive. In the eyes of the townsfolk, the lofty, disdainful master Zhao of the Zhao mansion was actually a piece his mother had cultivated outside long ago. In the battle for the throne among the 9 princes, Zhao Jin had suffered a crushing defeat. Fearing a stab in the back from his 8 elder brothers, he had fled north 1,000 li to hide in this small town. Is there still a chance to go back? How damned unwilling I am. Sleepiness swept over him like a tidal wave. Half asleep, the young man suddenly jolted awake, his eyes flying open. In his vision, reflected in his eyes, was the tip of a sword. Moonlight streaming through the windows splashed onto the slender blade, coating it with a layer of frost. The moment the young man opened his mouth, the boy crouching at the head of the bed tightened his grip on the iron sword and thrust with all his might. The cold tip pierced the young man's throat as easily as plunging into tender tofu. Blood spurted red. A strange sound like an old bellows rasped from the young man's throat. He could not utter a single word. A fierce sense of life and death crisis engulfed him. The 9th prince of Wei, a martial artist of the 8th grade, suddenly raised his arm and tore off the black cloth covering the boy's face. Under the moonlight, the young man, now recognizing the assassin, struggled to move his lips. The boy leaped off the bedside and said expressionlessly, "Who am I? My name is a Fei. Fei as in the flying bird." The boy unhooked the wooden sword hanging at his waist. He raised his arm high, aiming at the young man's heart. He brought the sword down with savage force, the sheer power, driving it straight through the young man's body, even piercing the bedboard beneath. One hand still clenched tightly around the black cloth, the young man, with his other hand, had somehow gripped a hollow iron ball. He grinned savagely at the boy, and with the last shred of his strength hurled the ball. With a thunderous roar, the earth shook and the sky trembled. Brilliant flames erupted. The acrid smell of gunpowder spread. The young man's intent was not to blow up a Fei, but to alert the 2 4th-grade martial artists. As the light in the young man's eyes slowly faded, a Fei's face betrayed neither sorrow nor joy. He left the wooden sword behind, pulling out only the iron one. After stuffing the jade box containing Sister Chuiyer's skin into his bundle, he climbed out the window and onto the roof. His slender silhouette soon vanished under the moonlight. The silent Zhao residence erupted like a drop of water into a searing wok of oil with that explosive roar. Under the moonlight, a Fei's toes lightly pressed, and in an instant he leaped several zhang away. In the blink of an eye, he had fled the magnificent Zhao estate complex. Suddenly the sprinting youth abruptly turned his head. A dozen zhang away atop a rooftop stood a tall, slender girl in white as pure as snow. Under the moon's cold, frosty light, her robes fluttered. Her left arm extended forward while her right arm was pulled high back. In her right hand, she gripped a sword over 3 chi long. The girl's peach blossom eyes, radiant with charm, blazed with murderous intent aimed at the fleeing youth. With her lithe frame driving her entire right arm, she hurled the sword with savage force. Amid a mournful howling shriek, the sword wrapped in the fury of wind and thunder, like a blazing lightning bolt tearing through the night sky. In an instant it crossed paths with the youth's slender form, sweeping up a spray of blood. The sword's momentum did not diminish in the slightest, piercing swiftly into the depths of the long night. The youth, like a bird with broken wings, plummeted straight down from the rooftop. Under the moonlight, the peach blossom-eyed girl followed the conspicuous trail of blood on the ground, chasing straight out of Wulong Lane. Just as she dashed out of the lane, the girl's jet-black pupils suddenly contracted. The youth, whose entire right arm had nearly been severed by that thunderous sword strike, was hiding in the shadows of the corner. The girl her charge too fierce was now only 2 or 3 steps away from the youth. The youth suddenly smiled at her. His smile was like water seeping from a crack in the ice. His left hand hidden within his sleeve quickly swung back, hurling the object in his palm fiercely at the girl. It was an oil paper package. The moment confusion crept onto the girl's oval face. The oil paper package in midair exploded with a bang. Rolling clouds of quicklime powder instantly engulfed the girl. The next instant, a wild, fierce wind swept up without warning. The sky-filling lime powder, as if plowed earth, rolled back furiously to both sides. The youth saw a palm as white and tender as jade. It was too fast. Though his eyes had caught it, his body could make no evasive move. The delicate hand gently tapped his chest. With a crisp sound of shattering bones, the youth's body flew like a cannonball. Midair he spat out a mouthful of blood. After the time it takes an incense stick to burn. The lofty mountains, as if cloaked in frost, stood like solitary transcendent goddesses, silently overlooking the desperately fleeing youth. With a muffled thud, the youth suddenly fell, eating a mouthful of mud. Struggling to his feet, he reached his left hand into his chest. Soon he pulled out an iron plate over an inch thick. Embedded in the center of the plate was an exceptionally clear palm print. So this is the 4th-rank martial artist at the pinnacle of external martial training. A Fey murmured. Had the iron plate not absorbed 70 to 80% of the girl's power, that palm strike could have easily caved in his chest, leaving not a single intact rib. Turning his head, he glanced at his right shoulder, bloody and bone-deep. A Fey gritted his teeth, enduring the pain, and looked up into the distance at the towering mountain that seemed to pierce the starry sky. The small town, Wulong Lane. The Zhao residence was brightly lit with lanterns. A maidservant hurried in with small steps, carrying a half-copper basin of edible vinegar into the main hall. Inside the chamber of Zhao Jin, the 9th Prince of Weidu, a woman in her early 20s dressed in a goose-yellow ruchuan stared expressionlessly at the young man pinned dead to the embroidered bed by a wooden sword. In her spiritually vibrant almond eyes, the murderous intent was so thick it seemed ready to flow out. Zhao Huiran, old master Zhao, the Zhao steward, and all the male servants and maidservants stood with heads bowed, silent as cicadas in winter. A few minutes later, the woman arrived at the main hall. By now the peach-blossom-eyed girl, who had already washed the lime powder off her face with edible vinegar, was gripping a small writing brush, moving it like a dragon and snake on rice paper. After 10 odd breaths, the girl set down the brush and handed the rice paper to the woman. Sister Liufeng, this is the true face of the assassin. The woman named Lu Feng stared intently at the youth on the rice paper. Sister Liufeng, what should we do now? The peach-blossom-eyed girl's expression was filled with coldness. A dragon prince has fallen. This will inevitably shake Weidu. This matter is of grave importance, Sister Huishua. I must return to Weidu as soon as possible to inform His Majesty of this incident. As for the assassin, although he has been afflicted by the fire poison of your blazing palm, it is hard to say if this youth has a way to neutralize the poison. Sister, take the Azure Falcon to pursue him. In short, we must see him alive or his corpse. Lu Feng said sternly. With the fire poison, the sword wound, and the palm injury, this youth cannot have fled far. Sister, I will bring the assassin back, whether alive or dead. Huishua said through gritted teeth. I hope so. Lu Feng parted her cherry lips and whispered, the sky over Wei is about to change. A quarter of an hour later, at the entrance of Wulong Lane, gathered over a dozen martial artists secretly raised by the Zhao residents, including some who had just stepped onto the threshold of martial arts at the 9th rank and a considerable number at the 8th rank. Now all the martial artists' gazes were focused on the peach-blossom-eyed girl. The girl in flowing white robes wore a sword at her waist, and on her shoulder stood an azure falcon with emerald feathers. The girl crouched down. On the rain-moistened cobblestone path of the lane were scattered dots of deep red. This was the blood of the young assassin. The girl extended a finger and dabbed a bit of the blood. She then brought the bloodied finger to the azure falcon's beak. The highly intelligent falcon pecked lightly. Soon it flapped its wings. Like an arrow from a bowstring, it shot into the night. Follow it, the girl commanded softly, leading the dozen-odd martial artists as they chased after the falcon into the distance. At the foot of Buzhou Mountain, standing by the cliff edge like two great door gods, were Tao Da and Shao Saner. The dense peach leaves on the trees suddenly rustled without any wind, as if warmly welcoming the owner of the approaching footsteps. The youth carrying a bundle, holding an iron sword, his face as pale as paper, his knees gave way, and he fell with a thud before the cave entrance. Master, was your disciple too reckless? Master, your disciple is leaving. As for where your disciple is, the bright moon shone long. The stars filled the sky. A Fey couldn't help but recall the days he had spent with his master. Drenched in sweat, he practiced his sword moves methodically in the shade of the two peach trees. The vermilion python, his master, rested its head on the ground, lying at the cave entrance, lazily basking in the sun. One man and one python, they had spent many years together. Master, your disciple will definitely return. After your disciple has seen the surging waves of the eastern sea, the majestic glaciers stretching thousands of miles in the far north, and the river of stars falling from Jiayao Mountain. Perhaps in 2 or 3 years, perhaps in 7 or 8, I will return. When that time comes, I will stay by Master's side and never leave again. Master, farewell. The youth's forehead struck the... After a long time, the youth, his forehead red, slowly stood up. He took a long last look at the cave, then turned and walked away. Deep within the pitch-black cave, like an ink vat, it seemed, 2 candle flames lit up. A gentle breeze drifted out of the cave. It floated all the way to the youth's side. In the wind, the familiar soft whisper of his master seemed to sound. Farewell. The youth, already at the foot of the mountain, suddenly looked up. On the cliff there was nothing. Only the 2 peach trees. Their dense leaves rustled. Once you enter the martial world, it is as deep as the sea. From then on, this flying bird will never return to its cage. On this day, the youth, alone with his sword, went straight into the martial world. He never came back after that.